And Bergen County, New Jersey Moms for Liberty Chair, Alexandra Bauer. Thank you both for coming on. Great stuff. This Zinn education, as written by the Washington Examiner, says the following, quoting here, teaching resources authored by Hamas sympathizers. Praise for left-wing. And New Jersey Moms for Liberty Chair, Alexandra Bauer. Thank you both for coming on. Great stuff. Alex, to you first. This Zinn education, as written by the Washington Examiner, says the following, quoting here, teaching resources authored by Hamas sympathizers, praise for violent left-wing activists, and activities where students role play as queer liberation activists fighting against the religious right. Represent just a small sample of the material produced by Zinn Education Project and its parent organization, Rethinking Schools. And the National Education Association can't get enough of this stuff.
Well, of course they can't. I mean, you know, first of all, they are the largest union, right, at almost 3 million, and they love to push this woke agenda. I mean, the fact that they are downplaying some of the most violent organizations. For example, one of the curriculum that they're going to be teaching our students is kind of downplaying the Black Panther Party. I mean, these people obtained firearms. They were murdering people. They actually call the lynching a legal lynching. I mean, how is this possible? But this is a trend that we're seeing all over, where they're putting down anyone that's conservative, but anybody that has this far left way of thinking, that's okay. And it's getting very dangerous because it's, they're affirming this mental illness that's going on, and it's having, disastrous consequences for our youth, in schools and all over. And unfortunately, the kids are acting out because of it, right? They know the difference between right and wrong, and they're getting confused by their teachers.
Ryan Walters says this about the teachers' unions. Watch.
They're one of the most radical groups in the country. They don't want free speech. They don't want our kids to have access to American values. They want BLM, LGBTQ plus clubs. They fight for those, and they fight to keep TPUSA out.
And imagine, could you hear more about this? All the time you get people jumping on the very same bandwagon like, man, the teachers' unions are not helping us.
No, when they meet for conferences and things like that, when they vote on their resolutions, what's happened is that the teachers union and teachers have become Marxists and indoctrinators. They're not educators. They are activists, and they're there to activate the students. And because we all know that every political revolutionary movement goes for the kids first. And that is exactly what the teachers are doing in the public schools in America.
Yeah. Meantime.
Hi, everyone. This is Moms for Liberty Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, and I have special guest, Joyful Warrior Award winner Alex Boyer from am I saying this right? Bergen County, New Jersey.
Bergen, you almost got it.
Bergen, almost.
It's okay.
And today we're going to talk about what's going on in New Jersey, because there's a very important election happening. And I want to hear all about what Alex has been doing there. I've been watching on social media. I first will do a little bio of Alex, and she is a chapter chair of Moms for Liberty, and she has faced extraordinary adversity. And she was in just a few months ago in a podcast with our founder of Moms for Liberty, CEO Tina Deskovich, and you had a very compelling story, Alex. I think you were the second or third chapter chair interviewed, right? Two. You were right after me.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was. I highly suggest that you watch it, and I will make sure that I put that in the links, that interview. And you and I had talked recently, Alex, about a big controversy involving the Girl Scouts of America, of which you were a leader for many years, 6 or 7 years, right?
7 years, yeah.
Yes. And that was a huge national story, what happened when you simply just refused to go along with the woke LGBTQIA plus, alphabet agenda, and exposing young girls to inappropriate content, and taking them to an event where there would be a transgender activist talking to them. These are girls just way too young. And also that they were putting out sort of what I would say propaganda, lots of transgender flags, events in your hometown that did not reflect the values of the people in your area, and you spoke out and you stood up, and I'm sure you faced a lot of heat, and you can tell us more about that story too. But I just want to say like how courageous you are. And also I want you to mention the story where you were swatted as well, just so that people understand how much you've been through to get where you are now, which is someone who is on Fox News like every day.
It's funny. I was actually just sending Fox a story about how a teacher is suing the union because they're using their dues without, they're pretty much hiding what they're using their dues for, and they're using them for these different elections. And it's just not fair for these teachers. I mean, first of all, you need to be upfront about what you're using these funds for, but also what about the fact that some of these teachers don't believe in maybe that person who they're, paying for their election. And they have every right to have a say in that. And I'm really glad that they're finally standing up for them. So I was literally just, giving them that story. I'm like, you guys need to look into this. They're doing something. This is so great. But yeah, the Girl Scout thing, it's still ongoing. We're still talking to some different lawyers. It really became apparent that we need to take it as far as we can with them because of the amount of stories that I'm hearing from other parents that, they just didn't know what to do. And it happened last year or a couple years ago. And they were like, well, we didn't know who to turn to. We didn't have the resources. We didn't know our rights. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what we do at Moms for Liberty. We help to educate and empower these parents. Well, we have to do something about this because this is happening to way too many parents. So it's something that we're still dealing with. Honestly, yesterday I spent over an hour at the police station in my town, and I had to speak to the FBI again because we have been swatted before, and there was another individual that was making threats. Actually started with some of the people that are running for different elections. And then, of course, it turned to me yesterday, and they were threatening my children, myself, saying they know where we live, all that stuff. And we, called law enforcement right away. They said, you need to come in. This person at this point is a domestic terrorist, and they need to be handled. So, it's not, it just never ends. The more that you're accomplishing, the more they're going to come after you. So at this point, we're just very, very much used to it. Although my kids were, it's funny actually, because my husband's for work and he was like, well, just make sure you have all the stuff out that you might need. And my son was funny. He was like, Dad, Mom can handle this guy. He's like emo.
Oh, emo.
But, they're aware of things because they have to be. They need to be aware of their surroundings. They need to understand why things are happening the way that they're happening and how people can be, unfortunately. That was one of the great things about Charlie Kirk, was that he was able to debate and respectfully disagree with people. And that's something as a nation we need to get back to, because people are just keyboard warriors and they're throwing these threats out. And I really don't think that they value or respect other human beings.
No, they don't. And so now let's talk about what's happening in New Jersey, because you have been a huge voice representing parents all across your state and across the country, standing up, fighting against this culture war the war that we didn't ask to be a part of. We just wanted to live our lives, but they have forced this upon us because they are continually coming after our children, our way of life, disrupting our lives and trying to force their values upon us. And while doing so, claiming that we are the ones that are the activists and we are the ones that, are wanting to participate in democracy. So they've used language and they turn it around, when in fact we've often just wanted to be left alone to live our lives. That's most conservatives, libertarians, but they won't let us, will they?
No, they won't. It just enrages them. It seems like the fact that we just want to have our own freedom to raise our families the way that we see fit. That's the beautiful thing about America, is that we all came here to have the right to have our own religion, our own faith, our own beliefs, right? That's why we're here. That's what's so great about America. And yet they want to come, or if they're here already, or they want to come here and they want to change everything. And those countries exist. You can go live in those countries if that's what you're looking for. But here in America, we value liberty and freedom, and that's how it should be. And they just attack, and they want to come into these schools, and they want to, like, for instance, we have a gubernatorial race going on, with some other elections as well, but that's really the big one here in New Jersey. And you have Jack Ciattarelli and Mikey Sherrill, and she flat out has said that, I'll probably let parents opt out of some things, but definitely not LGBTQ curriculum. That's too important. And that just shows you, what she thinks about parental rights, because that's not parental rights, picking and choosing. You can't say, everything but this one's too important. And that's not what parental rights is. And obviously she doesn't understand New Jersey at all, because here in New Jersey, we don't teach our kids those things. We don't sexualize them at an early age. We don't, read them these books, and they'll constantly call it book banning. Removing inappropriate material is not book banning. Buy it on Amazon, go to Barnes and Nobles, read it to your kids at home if that's really what you feel is important in your life. But, it is available there for you. We're not taking it off shelves, right?
Yep.
And so she doesn't really understand the temperature here in New Jersey, because that's not what we are about here. We're about respecting your parents, a good education, which is science, math, English, things like that. And also trades. We need to bring back the trades, which Jack has spoken about quite often, carpentry, mechanics, even like beauty trades, things like that, which we all, I'm 45. We grew up with that in school. You were able to, a certain age, you were done by like 11:30. You had your lunch, and then you could go do trades. And it was wonderful, because by the time you graduated high school, you had a skill. You could go make money, and you weren't in debt to some 4-year school, which what are they, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year now? These kids aren't even prepared for college. The scores are horrendous. The national report card was horrendous. Not really surprising, but horrendous. And then we're going to send them to school, and they're not prepared, and they can't get a job, and now they're in debt $250,000, $350,000. So what are we doing to these kids?
Yeah. And what about taxes in New Jersey, and how much would families like to have more money in their pocket and the ability to make decisions about where their kids went to school, using their tax dollars and making it work for them? Does the candidate that you're supporting, Jack, is he, I would guess that he is one that's going to try to give parents more of their hard-earned money back so that they can choose to spend it in the ways that they want to?
Sure. Well, he does. We had a conversation with him shortly after the primary about some important things. School choice was definitely one of them. The fact that we have some of the highest taxes ever anywhere. And, it's so crazy. We live in these, don't get me wrong, there's some huge houses in New Jersey, right? But even if you live in a small house, you're spending a lot of money. You're spending a lot of money for that house. You're spending a lot of money on those taxes. And it used to be because a lot of people lived, we're 30 minutes out of New York City.
Yeah.
You can go work in the city if you want to, but still raise your kids in this lovely, like, suburban, safe neighborhood where we never used to have to lock the doors. But most importantly, our schools were great. And that's why you would move to this town or move back. My husband and I grew up in this town, and we moved back to this town thinking, well, it's more expensive. Our taxes are more expensive, but the schools are phenomenal. And then surprise, that's not how it is anymore. And they're more concerned about handing out pronoun buttons, right? And diversity instead of, having a child feel confident in their learning abilities, right? And I don't really believe too much in test scores because not everybody tests well, let's say. However, these kids don't feel good about themselves because they are so far behind, like not a grade level, but so far behind some of their peers, and they're just not getting the help that they need. Because again, they're more worried about woke indoctrination over curriculum. So he is for that. He's for school choice. He's for medical freedom. He's for parental rights. He's for exemptions. They're actually right now in New Jersey trying to backdoor their way in to get rid of religious exemptions since they couldn't do it back in 19. And he's aware, we've brought this to him. He's aware of how they're trying to do it, and we're going to get in front of it. So if you believe in parental rights, and if you believe in medical freedom, and you believe in school choice, the candidate choice is extremely clear.
How worried are you about what's happening in New York City? Is that having an effect on what's happening in New Jersey? Because I'm watching from Wisconsin, and I'm scared to death about what I'm seeing happening with the mayoral race. Is what happening there helping? Because are people seeing that, hey, we don't want to end up in that situation. We better vote now for a common sense candidate before we're in the exact same position where pretty soon we're electing open Marxists. I mean, right now the Democrats are mainly they're soft socialists, but now they're moving quickly to the territory of just, I'm a communist, vote for me.
I think New York has forgotten all about 9/11. Wasn't the motto 9/11, we will never forget? They have completely forgotten about it, and it is scary. It is scary that they're allowing this type of person to take the lead. We find it extremely scary in New Jersey. We're, again, right next door. I'm 5 minutes from Rockland County, 25-30 from New York City. And usually what happens there happens here, or vice versa. And that's usually why we fight very hard for our neighboring states. I mean, all of the United States, but our neighboring states, we go to bat for. We go to their meetings. We go to their rallies. We help them out. We give them a call. Hey, what can we do to help you guys out? And they've been doing the same for us as well. The fact that Governor Murphy, the tyrant that we've been living with the last few years, just endorsed Mikey Sherrill is terrifying. And that should have everybody running to early vote. The numbers are a little down. They're not where they should be. And they're going to try and do something on November 4th to the machines, whether they don't work or they shut down. We're telling everybody you have to early vote. It is as important. And people always oh no, that can't be true. No. It's as important, if not more important, than the presidential election, because a lot of stuff goes back to the states. And so even though I love President Trump and everything he's doing is phenomenal, what he has accomplished in this short amount of time, it's like magic. But a lot of this stuff we have to deal with on a state level. And until we change on a state level, we still have schools that are allowing boys on girls sports, boys in girls locker rooms. And we're bringing it to the Attorney General, and we're saying, hey, look at what's happening. And we're going after them. But there are some schools that are saying, well, I don't care, take our funding. So it has to change here, and people have to early vote. So that means do it today. Do it today, do it tomorrow, but do not wait. We absolutely have to do not wait until the 4th. That is imperative. And that's it. People don't realize how dire it is. It is that dire. I've had multiple people come up to me that said, I've always joked about moving, but if she gets in, we're going to have to leave. Because another thing that has always been plan B for people was to homeschool. Well, we have 4 egregious bills on the way that want to change homeschooling. Homeschooling in New Jersey, I believe it's the second best state for homeschooling. You basically just write a letter saying, I'm going to homeschool my kid, and you're on your own. You pick any curriculum you want, any belief system, any faith system, any curriculum you want, and you are doing that with your child. If these bills pass, Number one, you'll have to bring your child to a wellness visit with a school staff. You don't know who that person is. Is it a doctor? Is it a school nurse? Like who's looking at your child? That's horrible and unacceptable. Number two, homeschoolers will have to abide by the New Jersey state curriculum and prove it. So what is the point of homeschooling? So literally they are attacking from every angle. That is how important this election is to New Jersey.
I would guess that the teachers unions heavily back with all of their might, their political power, and their money. They heavily back the candidate that is going to go after homeschooling, because the rise in homeschooling since COVID is something that the woke just is unacceptable, because they want to get their claws into our kids. They want to make sure that president like Trump never happens again. And the best way they can do that is to indoctrinate them young. They don't want to wait till high school. They want to get them in elementary school and middle school. And they just, what you said, this is a story. This has been happening all over in blue states, or states where there is a Democrat governor, where they're trying to codify a lot of things that they can't get past through their state house because they're unpopular. They will take advantage of the fact that there is a Democrat governor, and they will slide all this stuff in so fast.
Yeah, that's what they do. They don't do anything the right way. They're sneaky. Just the amendments that they're looking to add for religious exemptions, it's 300 pages long. And that's what they bank on, that nobody's going to A, know about it, and B, no one's going to read 300 pages, but we do. So it's fine.
We do.
We have lots of helpers.
Yeah, we read all the pages. They don't read the pages. They don't even know what the bills say. They were told, they take their marching orders, and they just call us names, and there you go. And it's if they can take away homeschooling, I mean, we're in big trouble, because a lot of parents can't afford private schools, or they just don't exist. I mean, there are areas where there isn't the option. So if you don't want to have your kid indoctrinated, or you just aren't, you feel like the school in your area just isn't doing a good enough job, they can't read at grade level, and a vast majority of American students in public schools can't read at grade level. They can't do math at grade level. The recent scores have shown that all over the country. So we've got to do something big, and we need good governors. You are 100% right. This goes back to the states. There's only so much that President Trump can do. And we are believers in the republic, in the federalist system, and that there are powers that the federal government should have, and they should be few and far between, and states and local districts should have the majority of the power. And so that means you have to get out and vote, just like
and it's every level. We need Board of Ed, we need town council, we need county commissioners. We need somebody everywhere so that this does not happen again. And I know we joke. I mean, I literally did say to my husband, I said, get ready to sell the house or rent it out, because if she wins, I'm gonna have to homeschool the kids. But now I'm not following that curriculum, so that doesn't work for us either. So, like, I know I was joking before, but now I'm not really joking. But here's the thing. If it happens here, it's going to happen to the next state, and then the next state, and then the next state. So you can't run, because it's going to, people would always say, oh, I'm going to get a commune, or I'm going to buy an island. Guess what? It'll reach there one day too. So we have to stay, we have to fight, we have to vote. It is literally the most important thing. Nobody has anything more important to do the next few days. That's it. That is the most important thing you have to do. And then once you vote, you're not done. Then I need everyone to talk to everybody else about have they voted, and has their neighbor voted, and their family voted. And that is what we need everyone to do until November 4th.
And you'll be surprised. So once you vote, make sure you talk to your mother, your family, your friends. You'll be surprised at how many people say, oh, I plan to vote, or don't even. Shockingly enough, they're like, oh, the election is already. It's busy time for a lot of people who aren't politicos. Halloween, it's all of that, all the stuff. So remind them. But with early voting, get them to vote early. Drive your mother to vote. Like if, take elderly, anyone in your family, like just make sure that they're voting, make the calls.
Yep.
And if you have 18-year-old kids, get them to vote too.
Yes.
Make sure your kids have voted. Like that was one thing. And in Wisconsin, Trump won because we early voted and we went to vote and then brought 10 people with us when we did vote, and just constantly.
We did the magic number 14 because it was Trump's birthday, and I don't know, there was another reason too. So we told everyone this time, we're like 14 or 15, like not less. It has to be more. Just bring everybody. And you had such a great point. Unless you're in this world, sometimes you have no idea what's going on. And it's understandable, totally understandable. But there's us, and we can talk to them, and we can remind them, and we can drive them. So, I think, if everyone can make a post on their Facebook or their Instagram, make a phone call, go to their neighbor and say, hey, I'm going to go vote. Do you need a ride too? Like, have you gone? I'll take you. Those little things are so important.
It's so important. And it will shock you, the people that don't know that the election is happening, or they'll say, oh, I plan to vote a different time, and who knows what could happen that day, and They get busy and then they don't vote. So just go vote early. Listen, I have voted in every election, but I've started to vote early, even though I know I will make it there, because there is an advantage to voting early. That means that your local GOP and your state GOP, they can kind of cross you off, like, okay, they voted. Now we're going to go knock doors where they haven't voted. They're going to try and find the low propensity voter and make sure that they get out to vote. It's a huge, I didn't fully understand it until a few years ago, why it's so important to vote early and bank those votes. And if you support Charlie Kirk, I mean, that's what he was all about, banking the votes. Get out there, vote early. It's really important for those of us who are really invested to vote early, and to make sure that we bring along those who are our natural allies, but maybe they don't even know it yet. And if you are your church, if you're a Christian, if you're a pastor, please don't think that what's happening in this world is of no consequence. It matters. We need more Christians and more pastors and more churches like getting involved and voting. It's always shocking to me when I see the numbers of Christians who agree with us on everything, but they don't vote. Or hunters. That was a big deal in Wisconsin. Like, they were out hunting and not voting. It's like, well, then vote early. And
yes, that was big here in New Jersey too. We actually had a lot of signups like at the gun ranges, because we found that a lot of them weren't registered to vote. And we're like, but don't you want to protect your Second Amendment rights? Don't you want to protect? Like, we were like, I don't understand this. Or you go to church every Sunday, or you go to Bible club. Don't you want people to understand this beautiful way of living? Don't you want to protect this? Like, it's really shocking how many people don't practice what they preach. They talk about it, but then they don't actually practice it. And it is going to be super helpful for us this weekend. We have Turning Point that is doing a super chase events Sunday and Monday. So they're coming. We started to build rallies, and then we've been working with them hand in hand the last month, or so, getting chapters going. We have so many now started in New Jersey. It's great. We have some wonderful events coming, and they see how hard everybody here is working in New Jersey, and they basically have said, okay, you know what? We're going to come. We're going to send people. Let's help you guys out. So that's wonderful. And we have a ton of door knocking every single day. Every day here in Jersey, there is, I don't even know, Jack's like doing 8 or 9 events a day. It's crazy. There's other events that even if he can't be there, we're having Pressler there. We're having America First there. Moms for Liberty is there. We're all talking to people, and they're all always next to a early voting center. This way, the second the rally is done, we can all go together and help people early vote, because I know some people have never early voted before either. So sometimes there's just like, they're like a little intimidated. And so we're like, listen, let's do it together. It's easy. There's nothing to be scared of. You get a fun sticker. Like, let's go.
Yes, it's fun. I was involved in a lot of Super Chase events, and I was a surrogate too. So, and I know that you're doing a lot of that good work.
Yep.
So I know that you have a hearts. My cat is trying to get on this. I know that you have some things that you have to do today. So I want you to right now, if you live in New Jersey, Alex, what are some events that are coming up, and where can people follow you? And this is my kitty, yes. He wants to get involved. So where can people follow you and get more information and find out where to go so that they can get involved in a Super Chase event or attend a rally or bring some friends to a rally and then go vote early?
Yeah, so we have, like I said, every day there's at least a few events, even if they're not with Jack, but they are America First or Turning Point. So they are everywhere. We have them all listed. All right, see, now Willow wanted to get in on it. The cat showed up. Willow's like, me too. I need everyone to know I'm here. So go to Moms for Liberty, Bergen County. That's Facebook, X, Instagram. So Moms for Liberty, Bergen County. You can look up any of the counties as well. If you go to momsforliberty.org, just pull up the map, you'll find us. If you're not a member, please join, because you're also going to get all your information either by a newsletter or email about what's all the upcoming things, events are. I will say right now, social media is probably the best place to look for events, though. We are literally adding events sometimes within daily, hourly. We're like, you know what? We can make this happen. Let's throw one there really quickly. So please follow our social media, because we just added another one for tomorrow. Like, for instance, a big one coming up is the Battleship in Camden. We're going to have a lot of great speakers there. And again, voting right down the road. But there's a ton of stuff coming up. The Super Chases Sunday and Monday are Central Jersey by the shore. There might be a change to the location. So just look on our Facebook, our Instagram, our X. It's all there. You'll see the flyers for everything. You don't need to RSVP to come. You can just come. They're family friendly. Please, don't feel like you need to find a babysitter. Bring the kids. Our kids come to everything with us. Yeah. They are super safe. They are super family friendly. You don't have to worry about that. So you can definitely come to a few. And, it's a great chance to also talk to some of us as well. For instance, the Battleship one, the doors open at 6. The program doesn't even start till 7. So it's a great, come and talk to us, ask questions. Maybe you need help on a local level, or maybe you have a question. We're there for you. So please utilize us. And other than that, yeah, that's about it. So just all the socials, again, Moms for Liberty, Bergen County. You can also do my private accounts, which is Alexandra Bauer. That's Bougher, because it does not look the way it sounds. And I put stuff on there as well. So just friend request me or follow me. And if you need help, just send me a message.
And I will post all of this. And I know that I saw some literature, some graphics, and I'll make sure that I will post those links, and I will give everyone that information so that they don't have to look up. Sometimes this, sometimes it's hard. I think even the way the algorithm works, you can look for someone and it can be harder to find.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? I'll send you all the upcoming flyers. This way it's just easy for you.
Yes. And then we're going to put all that out there. And when you go to Alex's website, you can also see how to vote down ballot. So when you're there voting for the big races, the governor's race, go down ballot. And all you have to do is screenshot who you should vote for school board, because maybe you don't know. And that happens a lot. Like, people don't know who to vote for. Their kids aren't in school anymore.
Yes. please ask us. And just because, so we have Moms for Liberty endorsed candidates for Board of Ed, but just because they're not publicly or officially endorsed doesn't mean that we don't know of other wonderful ones that are out there. So please ask us. I get asked that all the time. Oh, I don't see one for this town. Which town are you in? Oh, we know exactly who's wonderful in your town. So definitely, if you don't see like publicly endorsed ones, ask us, because there's a ton that we are helping, that we're working with, that, you know, are Moms for Liberty members. It's just not publicly endorsed.
Yes, don't assume because there isn't a public endorsement that there isn't a candidate to vote for. Same thing in Wisconsin. We will answer message requests, phone calls, texts, and tell people, oh, here's who you should vote for. So yeah, so if you are in a district and you don't see that there's a Moms for Liberty endorsed candidate, just reach out to Alex, and she will steer you the right way.
Yep.
Let you know like who to vote for if there's somebody there available. So yeah, so this is all great information. So if you're in New Jersey now, there's no excuses. You have to vote. Get out and vote. Save your state, save our country, and do it for parents like Alex who have young children. Even if you think, oh, my children are grown, or I don't have kids, this doesn't affect me. It does affect you in ways you don't understand yet and will later, but it affects your fellow citizens who have young kids, who need you to get out and vote so that their daughters don't have to be in a dressing room with a 6'4", 200-pound guy ogling them as they change. So if you just do it for that reason alone, that's good enough.
Yes. And also don't forget, it affects us all. One day, you know, you're going to have grandchildren. So even if your children are grown, you're going to have grandchildren. It affects your property value. It affects everything. So even if you're not thinking of other people's children, it affects you yourself in many ways that you may not even realize. So, you know, at this point, we need the person who's pro parental rights, pro medical freedom, lowering taxes, school choice. That is the person that we need, not someone who needs to mention that they fly a helicopter 25 times a debate.
Who can't remember how she got lots and lots of money either.
Lots of money, lots, yeah. Or why she couldn't walk with her graduating class. I mean, that story seems to change quite a bit as well.
Yeah, not a good candidate, but just has all of the endorsements, and so there you go. That's what's happening now. But there's a very good candidate on the ballot, someone you can vote for, someone you can believe in, and you know, you will be paying for all of these things, even if you think it doesn't matter to you or it's not relevant to you. You'll be paying for it, and you'll be paying a lot more taxes if you don't vote the right way.
I don't know that that's possible, but
they'll find a way. They'll find a way.
I
know, like, yeah, the pretty soon.
The amount of taxes I pay, I should have like a second house somewhere or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a horse farm. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Yes. Well, like save New Jersey. I mean, he nearly won last time. So it's got a great chance if you get out to vote.
Yes. As long as people vote, this is what people don't realize. And if we're like, and I'm not a huge party person per se, you know, to me, I think there's a lot of wrong in a lot of the parties and a lot of things that need to get fixed. But Republicans are notorious for not voting. They are notorious. They stay home and they don't vote. So they went out and voted for Trump. So we need this more than ever to come out and vote for New Jersey. This is way more important this year. So everybody go out and vote, take your neighbors, ask us questions, come to an event, come to a rally. It's a really fun time. You meet new friends, your kids meet new friends. And hopefully in a few days, we're going to have, you know, a better state on the way.
Great. Well, thanks, Alex, for coming on to talk about it. It's really important, really timely. I'm going to get this out right away because we need New Jersey and Virginia and a lot of other states right now. They need to get out and vote for team sanity. So thanks for coming on. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Well, I'll be watching. I remember what those days were like. I was in your position last year, and next year we've got a big governor's race. So bracing.
Yep, it never ends. And this is what I tell people, you can't take a day off. This never ends. And I think Willow is telling me it's time to go.
Yep. Yes. All right. Bye, Alex. Thanks.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
So I just wanted to point out some of the events that Alex was talking about. We can see here, Turning Point Action Super Chase in New Jersey, Sunday, November 2nd. Here's the location, Monday, November 3rd. And here's where you can sign up. So make sure you do take a screenshot of this. There is also this rally, Vote Early Rally. That's this Friday. And I'm going to make sure that I put these images in the links under this live stream. And then you see Jeff Sobek, Sunday, November 2nd. So lots of cool things happening. And like Alex said, every day there is going to be something different. I'm going to real quick. Hold on. Let's bring to stage. So I just posted this. If you live in New Jersey and are not insane, vote early, vote Jack. So here you go. Love this. And I want to real quick point out, we're going to show Alex's quick. Good. Get to her page. Hold on a second. There we go. So here you go. And right now I told Alex, if you are looking for her on X, she is currently kind of shadow banned. I was just searching her name and I had to type in her exact handle. So I want to point, I'm going to kind of do a post about that. I don't think that's fair, but you can see this is her exact handle. So I'm going to make sure I put this into. All right, we're going to add this to a banner right here so that make sure. Here we go. So if you want to follow Alex, this is her handle on X. She's also on Facebook. And here, when you go to her X page right here, you can see that she has, she's reposted some of my stuff, but she has a lot of information. Here's where the story she was talking about, the teachers union that is suing the New Jersey teachers union after learning about PAC transfers that funded former union president's gubernatorial bid. So she was talking about this, but go to her page and follow her if you are in New Jersey. And if you would like to know about all of these great events, again, we've got November 2nd with Jack Sobek, Vote Early Rally on Friday, Super Chase, November 2nd, November 3rd. So lots of opportunities for you to join fellow patriots and have some fun, go do some door knocking, lit drops, and get people out to vote. Again, I can real quick show you that I had just posted this great news. Hold on. That polling had been released. Right now, it is within the margin of error in New Jersey. So It's really close, same as Virginia, and we're going to talk more about Virginia as well. If you are on Team Sanity, you absolutely must get out and vote. Vote early and bring people with you to vote. Again, follow Alex right here on X, and while you're at it, be sure to follow Moms for Liberty at Moms for Liberty. That's the handle. You can always follow me at Scarlett, SCARLETT, number 4, kids. And to learn more about Moms for Liberty, go to momsforliberty.org. And next, we are going to be talking with my friend Natalia about what's going on in New York. So this is a great live stream, and we're going to have some different voices about these really important elections that are happening very, very soon. Just next week, Tuesday. There's still time to make a change. So we'll be back. Hi, everyone. This is Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And I'm continuing the conversation about the very important elections that are coming up on Tuesday. Key states are New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and a mayor's race in New York. These are states that everyone's watching right now. I just talked with my friend Alex Boyer, who lives in New Jersey, and she is up and running. She's probably right now out chasing votes, banking early votes, and trying to get more folks in New Jersey out to the polls early so that, and hopefully I'm saying his name right, Jack Ciattarelli. Am I saying it right? So that he wins the election. He is running against a candidate who is female. And that's pretty much her slogan. I'm a woman, vote for me. Don't look at anything else, nothing to see here. Jack has run and nearly won before the last election. Very, very close. Many think that he could win. This would be a huge upset, but it depends on getting independents and Trump voters out to vote in record numbers to overcome what is an advantage. You know, the unions, all the money, he's being outspent terribly, but Team Sanity can pull off a win. I believe that they can. And Adam, I've known you for so long. We were just at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warrior Summit together. Mm-hmm. And you are such a thoughtful speaker, and maybe you have such a fresh perspective because you haven't always been someone who's more right of center. So you've got a unique voice, a unique background. And when I was listening to you on your live stream yesterday, there were a lot of things that I thought I want you to come on my show and talk about it, because you talked a lot about New Jersey, but also what's happening in New York and why. Why is a guy that is a unabashed Marxist, how can he be winning? And I think you were really thoughtful about those answers, because we can all say like, oh, it's rigged or this or that, or he's just capturing the far left. But it's a little more than that, what he's doing, and the reasons, they're more complicated, I think, and maybe not as complicated. But I'm going to stop talking. I want you to talk, because I loved everything you said yesterday, and I want our audience to hear it.
Yes. So you want me to start with Mamdani first?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we'll end with New Jersey, because there's hope in New Jersey. I'm not sure there's a lot of hope in New York, but
yeah, I don't have a whole lot of hope in New York, if I'm honest. Yeah, when it comes to Mamdani, it's not just although it's a big contingent, it's not just the wealthy upper class Manhattanites. When it comes to socialists, they're very good at identifying problems. It's their solutions that are terrible. It's their solutions that are destructive. And so what has been happening in New York is that things have legitimately gotten worse. Things have gotten more expensive. COVID did not help whatsoever. But for many years, it's been trending in the direction that New York City is too expensive. Part of that has to do with New York City became safer. And because it became safer, more people wanted to move to it. Higher demand causes higher prices. And so there are those. That's a major aspect of why things are become more and more expensive, especially over like the past 2 decades in New York City. New York City, in many ways, is a transplant city. Not only immigrants, but people from other states move to New York, especially into Manhattan. So housing is very scarce because it's an island. And so because it's scarce, the price of stuff is more expensive for housing, and everything else goes up. Also, New York City has corruption. Like many major cities have a level of corruption, kickbacks and things like that. Living in New Jersey, we get New York City news, especially if you live in the northern part of New Jersey. You get New York City news. And I remember ever since I was a kid, what would happen is the MTA, which is the transit system organization for New York City, every, was it 5 years or something to that effect, they would say prices have to go up. And by default, they have to give like these town halls. And everyone who shows up at the town hall screams and yells at the MTA, at the people who are sitting there representing the MTA. And they are pissed off. And they're saying, I can't afford this. And they listen to them get yelled at for about an hour or two. And then right after the meeting, they raise the prices. They do not care. The prices always have to go up and for arbitrary reasons. But in many ways, New Yorkers are looking like, what are we getting for this? New York City, New Yorkers specifically, are getting taxed to death. It's not only that they have a state tax, but they have a city tax on top of that. Just for living there, you have to pay an additional percentage on your income just to reside within New York City. So they're being taxed to death. Everything is super expensive as far as housing goes. Housing is hard to find. So you have all these different problems that have come up. You have an increase in crime, although with the socialists, their angle isn't necessarily crime, because their viewpoint on crime is different than our viewpoint on crime. But they really hone in on economics, and economics is the driving force for people to go out and vote. So, for example, if we didn't have COVID and the economy stayed the same or got better, Trump would have won that next election. Because it's the economy, stupid. It's always about the economy. And so that means the local economy as well. So if people feel like I can't live here, it's too expensive, you can't even run a business there. The businesses are being taxed to death, and they're overregulated. And so they're just saying, you know what, I'm going to move elsewhere. They're being fined for stupid things. But the people who do illegal stuff, the people who have unregistered carts and sell stuff on the street, well, no one bothers them. But the people who are trying to do it right, they're getting taxed to death, overregulated, fined for the most arbitrary thing. And on top of that, the cost of commercial property is astronomical. It's how can you sustain an economy like that? So you have all of these things that are happening. Oh,
And real quick, so these issues are so deep and systemic, and more likely the result of progressive policies. And yet young people aren't looking at it that way. They're not thinking, wow, things are so expensive because of progressive policies. We need to inject some more free market principles. We need to, like looking at, let's deregulate, let's make government smaller. So why don't you think that they're even considering that argument? And I do think, I have been saying this to a lot of folks that are very interested in the culture wars, which of course I am. I have got 5 children, and 4 of them are between, or 3 of them, 19, 23, and 26. And I'm with their friends all the time. And they are so worried that they won't be able to afford a house. They look at the housing prices. And I have kids that are more conservative, and still, these are their issues. They are very concerned about these issues and not addressing them, and how expensive it is to have children, how expensive daycare is. And I'll hear people say, well, they shouldn't go to daycare. Women should stay home. That's when you're very young and you're trying to survive. That's not always possible. So
right.
Daycare is part of we have to be real about these issues. These are real issues. And if we don't get a handle on these and have answers, our kids are going to be looking towards people like Manami. It's just, it's an unfortunate fact. So we have to deal with these issues.
And what I will say is New York City. So the other aspect of New York City, we always look at national politics, Republican versus Democrat. New York City is not about Republican versus Democrat. New York City is about the Democrat primary. And so what everyone is deathly afraid of is being primaried within New York City. So when it comes to New York, and we say like progressive policies, the reason why New York is the way that it is now is not necessarily because of progressive policies. It's a mixture of just bad Democrat policies and public corruption that has happened. And some of it is just natural free market stuff. When you have way too many people move into a city, things become more expensive. That's a natural occurring thing. But it doesn't help when no one's acknowledging that the middle class is being squeezed and taxed to death, or that you're actually overtaxing businesses, which is why they want to leave and they don't want to stay within New York City. So you have those things, too much welfare, too much, city stuff.
And generally, New York is the place people want to be, right? Because of the opportunities, because it's still, the economic factor, the fashion, there's a lot that still draw people to New York. So it's kind of like, hey, if you want to be here, this is what it takes. Am I right about that?
Yeah, there are certain industry specific things like the financial sector and things like that. There is an entertainment aspect there as well. If you're coming from a no-name town somewhere in the Midwest, you move to New York City, you're going to make more money. However, the bang for buck is quickly dwindling to just being non-existent. Just about every adult that I know of that lives in Manhattan lives with other people. You'd have to basically be somewhat wealthy, upper class, to have your own spot, especially in the island of Manhattan. It's just way too expensive.
How large is the average home from friends that I know, like they don't, I mean, they're living in apartments with families. And
Yeah.
if there's 3 bedrooms, that's like considered luxurious. I mean, it was
Yeah.
where I'm from, the average house is like 24 to 3,200 square feet. You've got a backyard, you've got a front yard, you got a garage.
Yeah, I don't know the square footage offhand, like on an average case, but what people have to understand is that, especially if you talk about a place like Manhattan, it's old. Like much of the city that stands is built off of like a 1920s structure, right? So the pipes that are there, many of the buildings are built off of the 1920s skeleton, right? So it's a very, in an American standard, it's an old city. So that also means that the rooms are smaller, or there are less rooms that exist there as well. So that's why people are spending $4,500 a month in rent and they get a shoebox. It's because it's not, in many of these places, just not that big. Now, if you find some new residency, some renovated place or something like that, then you're paying a premium, or you're not living in Manhattan. But
The average person is living in a smaller space. They could be living with other people. It's if they're not married. So there's limited space, resources. A lot of people still want to live there. There's a high, from what I was reading about poll numbers, of support for Manami. I'm saying his last name right. Manami. So his support is coming from a majority of citizens that were not born in America. They have naturalized. So, and they're citizens, but they weren't born in America. So he's got a lot of support from new immigrants. And you say they're more frustrated because they lack resources and they want access to them and they want government benefits?
I can't fully figure out the immigrant angle, but what Mamdani is speaking to is a real issue as far as the economic situation of residing in the city. However, like I said before, his prescription is off. I think that the really
what is his prescription? I don't think a lot of people understand. What is he saying that he's going to do differently? What are his bread and butter issues that people find attractive?
In my opinion, his solutions are incomplete or they don't make sense. So once again, the socialist thing is make everything free, or promise to bring down rents. Explain to me how the mayor can bring down rents. Well, if I own my property, you can't tell me to bring my rent down unless he's going to invent some sort of mechanism where they strong arm people and force them to not be able to raise their rents. And they do have, I forgot what it's called in New York. They have it where you're almost like grandfathered in. Like you can have like
those rent control apartments, or
thank you, rent control. That's the word I was looking for. So people who are not from New York don't know this. So if you go to like a nice high rise, you have a doorman and all that stuff. Every building, I think it's in Manhattan especially, but every building has to have an affordable rent controlled apartment, or a certain amount of them. So you could have a rent controlled apartment for a low income person, and the person who is next door is paying $7,000 a month to live there, right? So it's a weird situation, but that's something that exists within New York City. Unless he is talking about some sort of massive expansion on rent control, which I think will probably be catastrophic. But that would also mean that he has a ridiculous amount of power when it comes to the private market. It's one thing to say that you have 1 or 2 apartments, which whether you should have rent control or not is a different story. But it's one thing to say that. It's another thing to be able to control how much a landlord can charge. And I think when it comes to socialists, and I'll just call them communists, when it comes to them, the entire point is to demoralize. It's to make sure that the system falls apart so they can attempt to rebuild anew. So that's why they always step in moments of catastrophe or a pivotal point where like something needs to change soon and no one has been noticing the needs of the people. They come in and play as the saviors. But what they want to do is control, is ultimately to destroy and control whatever exists. And the people will allow it because they say everything else, in their opinion, seems to be not working. I become open to new ideas, is what people say these days. These are not new ideas. These are old ideas repackaged with a different face.
So with the rent control, let's say he increases rent control and there's more, the owners of these buildings have to allow people to live there at a fraction of the cost. Most likely they're going to just raise the rent on everyone else and push other people to their limits, or they'll say, forget it, I'm leaving, this is too much. That could lead to some more empty buildings, and then owners that are like, I'm out. And, you know, there's so many unintended consequences of these ideas. And as we know with communists, every time they fail, they don't ever admit failure. They just say, no, we didn't do it hard enough. And they're going to have another government prescription, like, well, the government will take this and the government will take that. He also has like the free bus, the free childcare. I mean, I can't even imagine what the state of childcare will be when it's free for everybody. And anyone with any money is going to try and find an alternative to this free childcare, which is probably going to be subpar. All I see is disaster, but
Yeah,
I think
anytime
some people think that this might end good, but I don't see it ending good.
No, not at all. Anytime all right, so when you make like something like free childcare, well, you have to have enough people to do it in the first place. So that's one, you have to find labor for that childcare. And two, someone has to pay them. So that money has to come from somewhere. And what people don't realize, the federal government owes a ton of money and they can reside in debt. City governments have budgets and they don't have a reserve of money. They can't print money. So they have to either have the money and spend it, or they have to generate more money by raising taxes. That's pretty much, that's like the major mechanism to gaining more money within a city. So that means that he's going to have to raise taxes on someone. Yeah. And are they going to get their calculations right with how much money to raise? Is that going to help in a city that's already being squeezed? The rich will only pay so much because they have the option. They'll say, you know what? Screw this city tax. Screw this city. I'm just going to move outside the city. I'm going to move to Jersey. I'm going to move to Connecticut. I'll move to Westchester, New York. Like, I don't have to stay here and take this and get charged another 2% of my earnings that already the New York state tax, the city tax, I think the city tax is like 15%. And then you want to raise it some more. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So they're just going to take their stuff and go elsewhere. And then what ultimately is going to happen, everyone else will be squeezed. But I want to throw another likely thing that they want, because de Blasio wanted something like this too, which is why I say New York has actually had a socialist mayor before. De Blasio proposed, didn't happen, but proposed that the city buy some of these commercial properties that are empty and turn them into affordable housing. Mamdani will likely, if that becomes the case, where we have a situation where things start to break down, things start to get demoralized, that he wants to use city money to buy property to build affordable housing, and expand on that affordable housing situation. And in many of these people, they want to be more like Europe. And what I will say is in the major cities in many other parts of Europe, it's not heavenly, right? I think it's Vienna. I think it's over 40% of the housing is owned by the city. Is that really what you want? Because ultimately, someone is paying for that. Or, like we all know what project housing looks like. It's not the most upkept place because no one owns it. The city owns it, but they only care so much about it. The people live there, but they don't own it either, and they don't really care that much about it. So we're going to have a situation where the government is going to start to control more and more property within the city. The only way you can get that is things start falling apart. And by having these policies, they get to control more of the property within the city.
So I liked what you said, that the goal is chaos and destruction. These policies are going to end badly, and then in the ashes comes, the great etc. Then comes finally Valhalla, but they can never say how they quite get there because they never do. But New York City, such an iconic, such a large, such an important American city. Do you think there's the possibility that his policies will be so disruptive that suddenly everyone will realize, oh my gosh, socialism's terrible. Look at what it's doing to New York. And then there's a New York governor in 2 years. That's something that someone has said to me. Well, yeah, they'll go through this, and then everyone is going to see how bad socialism is, and then there's going to be a Republican governor, and everything will work out. I'm not so sure about that. Unless you've had conversations with some young people that would never consider themselves communist, but who will start espousing some of the views of these democratic socialists because they're not like Gen X, and they've seen so much government corruption. They don't trust government, and they think that capitalism, in the form that they have seen, is corporatism, and it's not good, and that there needs to be more government involved. And for some of these younger, I call them kids, but younger people, you can point out so many things, and it's not clicking.
Yeah. New York, like you said, it's an iconic city. How did it get to the point of having a socialist mayor? But let me ask you your quick question first. Your question real quick. Is it possible he gets into office and people are like, this ain't working, and get rid of him? Yeah, that could be possible. But I will say, they reelected de Blasio. And when he was going out of office, he went out with disgrace. No one liked de Blasio when he left. De Blasio was actively antagonistic towards the police. I believe it was under de Blasio when they started releasing people from the prisons. Matter of fact, when COVID hit, they had this round robin of catch and release. Like there's stories about men who got caught multiple times a day, caught, arrested, booked, released, committed another crime. All of that happened multiple times in a single day during COVID. These were the decisions of the lawmakers because they were worried about too many people in jail and COVID spreading within jail. That's what happened under de Blasio, and people did not like it. I think they voted for Eric Adams because they wanted some sort of stability, and they actually did want a bit of law and order. Now, did he do it? It's a different story. There's arguments over how much things got better or didn't get better. But one thing I'll tell you, he wasn't trying to empty the jails. So he was much better than having socialist de Blasio. But just like any mayor, you can argue certain things about him. So is it possible that you can get Mamdani and say, like, man, this ain't working? Like, he's making things worse? It's very possible that could happen. But how did we get to the point that Mamdani is the guy in the first place?
And
And that's where
my point talking, I don't mean to be but talking about the young people is, I believe it's because they have been indoctrinated so young that they don't even understand free market principles. They don't think critically. They've never heard of Thomas Sowell. They've never heard those arguments. I think that's why Charlie Kirk was so successful, because for many students, it was the first time that they had heard these concepts and they were open to hearing them, because he had charisma. He had something about him, and he was a force. He was, not just charismatic, but it was like when he came on campus, there was a lot of controversy. So people just showed up sometimes, I think, to see what is this all about. And he knew how, he had a way of, he understood how to use all of this protest and angst against him to amplify the message. And he also, more than I had even understood when he was alive, was talking about more than politics. He was talking about character. He was filling the void that is in these young people. So when you hear me talk about what we're not getting to with young people, I don't say this in a way that there's no hope. What I'm trying to say is trying to use, I love Ben Shapiro, but trying to say facts don't care about your feelings is just not going to work, because feelings also don't care about your facts. Right. There's got to be, we can't just throw numbers and say, here's the data, here's a report that shows you that this housing crisis can't be solved this way. This is the way I think conservatives want to go at these arguments. And they're ignoring the feelings, they're ignoring the isolation, they're ignoring the things that are going inside these kids that you understand. You've written about this. And that's the deeper issue that we're not talking about.
So what you're talking about is the propaganda war, right? We're all being propagandized to some extent. But there's a target for our kids. And we say kids, sometimes they are kids, sometimes we're just using it loosely. They're young adults, but they're a target. And the communists have been winning for quite some time. And the conservatives are late to the show. And so now they're trying to figure out a way, and some of them are doing the thing that hasn't been working in the first place. Honestly, if it wasn't for Trump, the conservatives would be far worse in their position. But that's a whole other story. The communists have been winning the propaganda war, and part of that propaganda war in the political realm has been the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, right? Which, by the way, calling them Democratic Socialists is a hijacking of the Democratic Party, right? It's a skin suit of what the Democratic Party stood for at one point in time. It's their only way to wedge into the political system and be taken as being valid, right? So when we look at AOC, I don't think a lot of people examine AOC. They see it as like, wow, this chick just ran against this longstanding congressman and won, and she just somehow pulled it off. No, she didn't just somehow pull it off. She pulled it off because of her association with the DSA and being able to galvanize people within her district to vote against that man, because he took her for granted and took the DSA for granted.
Yep. That
is how she won. The DSA, what they're doing, what's been happening in New York City. New York City is classically a winner's race on low voter turnout. Like that's just what it is. So if you have a small organization like the DSA operating, but they're staying active in one particular area, and they're the only ones who are energized and the only ones who are knocking on doors, the only ones who are being extremely politically active, they're going to catch some wins. And they're going to take some spots, and that's what AOC was assigned within New York City. That's what she was able to do. And now look at her. Now she is the one that they're looking up to as being the future. When she got into office, Nancy Pelosi was like, she'll get in line. Now look what's about to happen.
So I'm reading, I looked it up, and generally in non-presidential years, voter turnout in New York City is 13%. That's
Yes.
terrible.
Yes.
That's really low. So
Yeah.
the hope to beat him is to increase voter turnout. And that's hard because for Republicans, there's a Republican candidate that most people see does not have a chance to win. And then there's Cuomo. And a lot of people are upset with him because of COVID. And why wouldn't they be? I mean, and he's got scandals and he's corrupt. There's a lot of issues, but he's better than Manami. And it's hard for people to get out and vote for, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for not the communist.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of, you have to be pragmatic when it comes to something like this. And I think anytime you're dealing with communists, you can't always hold a high moral ground and do that. No, it's imperative that we do not give these people power. It's imperative. And I don't care if they have a nice smile on their face and they say the thing you want to hear them. Communists lie. And because they talk so much, you eventually hear the thing that they really want to do in the right environment. So if I did live in New York City, I would definitely vote for the person who's more likely to beat Mamdani, even if I despise that person, because anything is better than putting a communist into power.
I agree. That's what I would do too. I would vote for Cuomo because he would be the more likely candidate to beat the communist. And it's terrible that these are the decisions that we have, but it is one of those genuine lesser of two evils situations.
If you don't mind, if I could talk about how we got here.
Yeah.
Why is it that our only choices is between Cuomo and a communist?
You know why that's important? Because it's more than just New York. It's all over. It's all over the country where people look around and they think these are our choices. Really? Why? Why don't we have better choices?
The Democratic Party made a decision many years ago to abandon the working class. By abandoning the working class, they went towards the upper class. They were the people they're trying to cater towards. And that also meant that the type of people they want to promote have to fit the bill to cater towards that audience as well. So the people that are being elevated, like you look at Barack Obama, whether we like him or don't like him, there was something that he had an it factor, right? He was relatively youthful at the time. I think he was in his early 40s. There was something about him and he's the type of person that the Democrats would be able to get at that time. And if it wasn't Barack Obama, it would have been someone else. The problem that's happening now is they abandon the working class. They abandon the type of person that would have been the next Barack Obama in the Democratic Party, right? Perfect example, Tulsi Gabbard switched to a Republican because of their incessant need to try and promote Hillary Clinton and play ultra establishment politics. They lost these types of people. And now the Republicans have these type of people. Donald Trump probably would have run as a Democrat if he thought he could win, but he didn't. And he is doing many Democrat policies that they weren't actually following through on, but he's doing on the Republican side. So how we got here is because the Democrats have taken for granted all the goodwill, all their strategies, and they've abandoned the real base of the party. By doing that, they weakened themselves. And then Trump became what they live and die for. It's all they talk about. He became the existential threat. He's their talking point for every election. Doesn't matter if it's dog catcher. Like, is Trump this? And so what they saw was, hey, these people to the left of us, they don't like Trump either. They're our friends. No, these are people, it's like these are people who are trying to wear the Democrat label as a skin suit. You've allowed them to get next to you. You think that they're your friend, and they're actually someone who is here to hijack your party, to destroy it, and take the power that you have earned and use it for their own will. And that is what you see. That is why there are moderate Democrats that exist who agree with certain things that we agree with. Maybe not everything, but certain things that we agree with. We can talk to those guys, but they're silent, or they get kicked out, or they leave the party. And
I can't tell you how many times I've said to my Democrat friends, if you don't like Trump, all you had to do was nominate a sane, like normal, moderate Democrat. You know, you could like, because frankly, the hardest thing for me as a conservative, the hardest candidate would be someone who is moderate, who says, yeah, of course we don't want boys and girls bathrooms. Who would want that? That's crazy. Of course we don't want boys and girls sports. Of course we love America. We don't want, you know, it's really simple and basic. Just be moderate. Don't go off the deep end. Don't be like AOC and go on X and then tell Riley Gaines, who just had a baby, go get a real job because being a mom isn't one. I mean, they feel so comfortable that they can say that. I mean, 10 years ago, she'd be out of office for saying that. Now she's celebrated. And so I asked them why that doesn't happen. And they're, well, I don't know. It's because they don't show up to caucuses. They don't show up they're not engaged in any of the politics. And so the far left has just taken over the whole thing. And I hate Trump, so vote for us, even though we're Marxists.
yeah,
You're right.
I mean, that's the ploy. They became so one-track minded on Trump, they lost sight that the real enemy is standing beside them. I have an article coming out in the New York Post this Sunday talking about this very thing, that the DSA is a Trojan horse. They've got into the walls. They thought it was a gift, and it's really not. It's here to destroy the Democratic Party. And while I'm not a Democrat anymore, I'm an independent, I think it is good for America to have two parties that are relatively sane, trying to fight for every American's vote everywhere, right? We have a lot of like, well, this is a Democrat city, or this is a Republican town. No, I think both parties should be everywhere trying to equally fight for your vote. Probably not going to happen, but that's the North Star for me. So I don't think it's a good thing that we have one party that is either filled with communists or partially communist, and the other side is too weak, so they just repeat the communist talking points. I don't think that's good for our society, especially because we do have a system where some areas there's just no real good competition come from an opposition. And New York City is an example. You know, Sliwa is a one-off that he's trying to attempt to run. Maybe if he, at the right time, he has a chance, but right now is not the time. He doesn't have a chance. The city's not primed for a Republican mayor, not at this particular moment. So this is part of the problem, but that's why the DSA has been operating for a long time. They've been operating under local politics, right? And they've been ready for these moments. Mamdani is their JFK. And when you see Kathy Hochul come on stage at his rally, to me, that's a humiliation tactic. She didn't have to show up. Why is Hakeem Jeffries putting in his 2 cents about Mamdani? Because these people know who have the power now.
Yes.
We knew they had influence, but who has the power now? The DSA has the power now. The DSA has been running amok within the Democratic Party for quite some time. I think we're seeing a flex. We're seeing a DSA flex. Everyone's getting behind Mamdani. The establishment is getting behind Mamdani. And they don't even have to, per se. But they know if they don't, that they're going to get primaried. They're not going to face a Republican that's going to take their seat. It's going to be another member of the DSA who's going to take their seat, because they're funded by foreign entities, so they have money, and they have a ton of energy because communists always have a lot of energy.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I want to quick get to something I wanted to talk with my friend Natalia about, who is a Jewish New Yorker. She loves New York City, does not want to leave, has 2 children. She is still a registered Democrat, but obviously she's very unhappy with the Democrat Party. And she was at the Moms for Liberty Summit. She's promoting her video 15 days about what happened with COVID, what happened to our children. And she told me yesterday that she's in fear. She lives in fear that the police force is going to be corrupted under his leadership. And she says, what if Hamas tries to invade her child's Jewish school? Will the police stop them? Will the police protect her Jewish children? She has this legitimate fear, like, can I be a Jew in New York City? Can I live openly this way? Will I be protected under the Democratic Socialists? And she doesn't know the answer to that question.
So I don't know if this is any better, what I'm going to say. I'm not worried about the police force as far as, like, the police force is just a bunch of individual cops put together that, on the ground are responding to calls. I'm not worried about the police force and them wanting to stop crime. What I'm worried about is the entire entity that weakens the police.
Yes.
So it's not about will they respond. It's about if they can respond.
If they
because there's not enough of them because they've chosen to retire early. There's not enough recruits and that's what happened under de Blasio.
Yes, well, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Like individual, because where we obviously back the blue, and where I live, like, they support us, tremendously. We have great relationships with our men in blue and our military. But if he were to implement policies that make it so that independent, like, people who think like us just can't even tolerate the job when they retire early, or if they are weeded out, if there are requirements like DEI pledges, sort of certain things that you have to do in order to be a police officer. Well, you're going to see what happened during COVID, people leaving if they didn't want the shot, like some of the best leaving, and then new recruits. You see what's happening in the UK, what's happening with the police force and how they have become stormtroopers. It's shocking to me. My father is a vet. He served 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. My brothers are Marine Corps vets. I have family members that are police officers, and the best people I know, but they are the types that could not long survive working for a communist mayor.
So what I will say is the difference is the United Kingdom does not have a First Amendment. So that's a market advantage. Also, they don't have layers of bureaucracy that we do that are built into our system.
That's good. Talk me off a ledge.
Yeah. So it won't be like that. However, the more likely scenario that could happen is New York looks more like San Francisco. San Francisco, the cops are demoralized because it doesn't matter if you arrest this guy because the DA is going to let him off. There's just not enough police officers, right? They changed the local laws, so there's vagrants everywhere, right? So it's the entire point is to demoralize the system. It's to slowly decay people expecting better things to happen. It's to, by bits and pieces, make people not feel safe, and to break everything down. So at some point, when it is right, they can build it up in the way that they want to handle it. So it's why they want to release people from jails. It's why they want to decriminalize everything. It's so they can make it to the full extent of demoralization. so they can have the people move out of the city. Oh, we have all these abandoned buildings. Why don't we just buy them up, right? What if they were to say, hey, we have X amount of money. If you're a landlord in New York who wants to get rid of their property, sell it to the city. How many landlords do you think would sell it to the city, right? And they'll use your tax dollars to do it. Yep. So it's that particular thing that is likely to happen.
So we've talked a lot about what's happening in New York. Let's talk about where you live, where there's some hope, New Jersey. What is your assessment of that race? And what is your advice to anyone listening who is a resident of New Jersey and can vote?
Well, one, go out and vote. I was supposed to do it today. We have early voting started last Saturday. And I've been procrastinating.
It only started last Saturday?
Yeah, early voting started last Saturday. And I believe election day is the 4th, if I remember correctly.
It's actually pretty good because there's a lot of states where it starts a lot earlier than that.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go and vote probably tomorrow. I think I'm free tomorrow, so I can go early vote real quick. But yeah, go out and vote. There is hope. It's a very close race. I did a piece, I did an article, and I did a video for the New York Post talking about the New Jersey election, following Scott Pressler and his organization. It went to 3 different points in New Jersey. Well. Yeah. Interviewed him, very gracious, but the work they're doing, one, there's a lot of energy that's involved, and they're being very active, and they're not just going in Republican districts, they're trying to get everyone. They're trying to get independents, they're trying to get disgruntled Democrats. They're going into areas to chip away at potential voters who have not been sought after. The thing, it's good for Republicans to understand this. When they look at an area, they're like, oh, that's a blue area, and they just kind of give up. No, when you have a statewide election, there are all different types of people that live in these areas. And we just talked about New York City. New York City has a 13% voter turnout. Well, why is that the case? It's because the rest of the people don't think that there's a point in going out and vote, right? And many of those people don't agree with the policies that's at hand, but they're like, what's the point? You know, we either get a corrupt Democrat or a Republican who doesn't care about what I care about. It doesn't come out and vote for me or support me, so they don't even try. They've been turned away from politics overall. His organization is going into those areas and chipping away at votes. What they're finding is, especially in the urban areas, you know, we like to think, oh, these urban areas are blue, and no. There's a lot of people who just never had someone attempt to knock at their door and explain to them the Republican position on these different things. And there's a lot of like-minded people. In New Jersey, we have, I think, the 5th largest Hispanic population in the country. So we have a lot of Hispanic areas within the state. And I was talking to a woman who lives in the Patterson area. She goes into Patterson all the time. Patterson, considered Democrat, stronghold, been winning Democrat for many years. But she goes in there, and the people she's talking to, she's getting to register to vote Republican because it's the first time they're talking to a Republican, and they like the stance, and she's converting voters within these areas. And so because Scott is running his organization in that way, where it's not just let's go into the safe places and energize the Republicans that are already there, he's taking the approach, we have to go everywhere, and they have to do everything. It can't just be show up on election day. If you're going to early vote, go early vote. If you have to mail in vote, mail in vote. It exists. It's legal. Go ahead and do it. Like whatever it is, just vote. And we can't just completely rely off of Republican voters because many of them have taken the position there's no point in voting. But I think it's different now because we're at a breaking point within our state. We, like you mentioned before, Chitterelli almost won, and he didn't have nearly as much support. He didn't have Trump's endorsement. He didn't have that much money, and he almost beat an incumbent governor, right? So that tells me a lot, that there's a lot that's going on here where people are disgruntled within this state. And now, if for the first time, the fact that you live in Wisconsin, you're even talking about New Jersey election means that something is happening here.
Yes.
That New Jersey is at play for the first time, and I think it's because, and if I could tell you some New Jersey specific things, like a lot of people don't know what's happening within our state. So I'll just give some quick like major points as to why people want change. One, we have the highest property taxes in the country.
Wow.
Two, we have amongst the highest energy costs in the country. And the energy costs have been skyrocketing ever since they shut down nuclear plants. They wanted to go towards renewable energies and build these things. Well, they said, let's shut it down before we even build it. And so what's happening is we're buying energy, just like in California, where they're buying energy from neighboring states. We're buying energy from Pennsylvania. And so our energy costs are going up 20 to 30% every year.
And nuclear energy is the cleanest energy that
Abundant, right? And it's clean. I mean, it's efficient, and it's our energy within our state, so we don't have to pay a premium from other places to import it in. But that's bad policy. That is bad Democrat policy at play, and the people in New Jersey are facing that. We haven't even dove into the cultural stuff, right? What's happening within some of our schools, right?
Yep.
We're just, from an economic standpoint, what I said before, it's the economy, stupid. That's what will make people say, I'm done. I need to choose something else, because the economic squeeze on people who live in New Jersey is so great, especially post-pandemic. What happened, and I'll speak personally for myself and my wife. Just before the pandemic had hit, we were looking to potentially buy property, right? We were at a point where like, let's save up and maybe we can buy some property, maybe like in a year or two. Pandemic hit, and when people started finally becoming mobile, the prices skyrocketed, and they skyrocketed in New Jersey. And so now when we look at properties prior to the pandemic, that property would have been $350,000. Now it's $500,000, right? And all of that happened in a matter of like 2 to 3 years, or less in some cases. And it's not going down. And so on top of that, even if we were to overcome the price of the house, the property taxes in New Jersey are astronomical. We have people who are paying, and I remember years ago, this would be like if you live in like some sort of extremely wealthy town, you were paying $12,000 a year for property taxes. Now that's about the norm, right? There are people who are approaching almost $20,000. If they have a really big property in a really nice area, they're paying $18,000 a year for their property on property taxes. So it comes to a point for a potential first-time home buyer like myself and my wife, how the hell can we break into the New Jersey market? We can't, right? Even if we could, it's overpriced. It's not even worth it, right? Why should we pay $500,000 to break into a decent house when we know that 3 years ago it was $350,000? It's overpriced. We're overtaxed, and then on top of that, it's not the state of New Jersey, but the interest rate has also increased for everyone. So we're just getting hammered, and the only people who own homes are either very wealthy or they've been in their house for many years, and they're not leaving their house because it's not worth it, because they have to find somewhere else to go, and for them to give up their low interest rate to go somewhere else that's overpriced, it doesn't make any sense. So they're staying put, or they're selling because they're leaving the state. So yeah, there's a lot of economic issues within the state of New Jersey that it is crushing the average working class American.
Yeah, I'm looking up your property tax. It is the highest in the nation at 2.2%, number one, and right under you is Illinois. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of just looking at then looking at some of the salary rates and then how much of the take home pay and how much will be spent on your home costs. Yeah, that's just outrageous. So how did that happen? And I don't want to veer too off because we'll have to, and I have to go pick up my daughter, but what could you say like, how did it get to the point where it became acceptable to pay such high property taxes on top of, on top of the fact that wages aren't rising with the taxation and energy costs are skyrocketing? How did that happen?
New Jersey has a bit of wealth. I believe we have the highest average income of any state. So it's kind of a weird combination between the two, because I'm talking about it's too expensive, but we also make on average the most. But that is skewed because we have a very wealthy population in certain areas within our state. But if you're outside of that economic class, you are struggling mightily to survive within the state. So we have a skew of wealthy people that live within the state, and it offsets everything else. But how it got here is because we have a number of wealthy people that live in the state, and they were.
Are there a lot of state mandates?
What's that?
Are there a lot of state mandates, budgets that have certain mandates, state mandated expenses that are making the cost, even running municipalities, police, schools? I'm going to look that up, but I'm sure that you're paying a lot for public education per student as well.
Yes, that's definitely the case. I know some of this really depends where. I had a conversation with someone in a town that does not have a school versus a town that's right next door that does have a school. The taxes are astronomically different. I think this person was talking about the difference between paying, I think it was like $7,000 a year in property taxes to like $18,000 a year in property taxes. So some of it is depending on where it is, but it's going up for everyone. So even if it's in a relatively working class area, the property taxes always go up, and it's been like that for quite some time.
And then you've got the issues with education, woke education, boys and girls bathrooms, boys and girls sports. Libs of TikTok just put out a video that I reposted, and it's actually like done very well because I said vote for Jack Ciattarelli because you want to get boys out of girls' bathrooms. So, so that's a big issue, and I mean for parents. But some of the kind of the woke politics, and the Democrat that's running, has said that they will not allow parents to opt out of LGBTQIA+ curriculum, and also that there's going to be more restrictions on homeschooling. And so that has a lot of parents very upset, especially with the rise in homeschooling families, because they don't have the funds or the ability to send their kids to a private school, and the public school is unacceptable. So there's, from what Alex has told me, who runs the chapter, a successful chapter in Bergen County, New Jersey, that she's very concerned that they're going to make it very difficult for homeschooling families.
Yeah, and that would be a concern for me too if I was a parent. I had to do homeschooling for the last 2 years for my son because he was in a crappy school. And the thing at that point when I decided to make that decision, I realized that actually New Jersey is one of the most relaxed when it comes to homeschooling rules. Basically, if you want to homeschool, the curriculum that you want to do is up to you. And that is absolutely wonderful. There's other places where they're like, you can do homeschooling, but you have to do this on the side. No, it's very loose in the state of New Jersey, which means that parents have a lot of freedom with how they want to teach their kids and what they teach their kids. So if they're finding ways to attack families who want to make that decision to homeschool their children, I think there's a reason for it, and I think people should push against it for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And so I'm looking, and I know Scott Pressler. He has been to Wisconsin a lot. I've got to meet him over the years, and he is a force. And I hear what you're saying. What I like is that he is not trying to go in the deep red areas. He's trying to, flip voters in areas that are traditionally labeled Democrat. In Wisconsin, as in New Jersey, I think the Hispanic population is ripe for a message that independent and conservative candidates have to offer. They are usually they're Christian. They're more devout Christians, Catholics. They very centered on family, and they so I think the traditional values align a lot. And they're first generation or second generation immigrants. They came to this country for opportunity, and they actually believe in the American creed, and they aspire to have a better life and provide one for their children. So they want the American creed to be true. They want to raise themselves up from the bootstraps, and they also do not appreciate this feminization of culture where we have emasculated men, and we have devalued fatherhood and traditional family roles. So I think that we're more, because there's Democrats and Republicans, if we're more Republicans would go and talk to this Hispanic community and bring interpreters, because still a lot of these communities are predominantly Spanish speaking, they would be successful, because that's what the Democrats do. I have family members that have now converted, mainly because of Trump, because I've talked to them for years, but they will tell me that there are activists that are in that community every day, knocking doors, handing ballots, telling them exactly how to vote, collecting the ballots. And a lot of people don't understand the issues. They are voting because someone knocked on the door and told them how to vote. It's really that simple. They're not diehard Democrats. They're voting the way that they are told. They're voting the way they're told by family members, by community groups, and they just need to hear something different. And we can't be afraid to go into these communities. And Republicans traditionally have not done a great job going into the cities, going into Black neighborhoods, Hispanic neighborhoods, and they tend to just stick to the suburbs. And I think if we want to win in a big way, we have to get really comfortable going into areas that I think the Republican Party is no longer the party of the wealthy. It's a complete misconception. I was going to ask you, I don't know how the Democrats like Ocasio-Cortez, how they continue to get away with labeling themselves as the party of the people, when all of the statistical data, the demographic data show that wealthier, more educated Americans vote Democrat. They are to the left. And it is more of your working class, your middle class, at your first time, an entrepreneur, they tend to be Republican, but the wealth, the money is on the side of the left, but they still run around like, oh, the Democrats are the evil, Richie Rich. How do they get away with that?
Well, it reminds me of what you said earlier about Ben Shapiro. Facts don't care about your feelings. You may be right about those numbers that you gave out, but the feeling is that they're correct, because they say stuff like tax the rich, eat the rich, right? Even though they're funded by the rich. The lie is that only one side has billionaire donors. And trust and believe, billionaire donors vote in both parties. Sometimes a single billionaire donor votes for both parties and supports both parties because they're pragmatic about, well, if this person wins, I'll curry favor. And so every politician wants a wealthy donor because that person will help them propel against their opposition. So they all take money from rich people. And honestly, like, there's nothing wrong with taking money from rich people, right? If they further your goal, then that's just what it is. It's not as evil and nefarious as people make it sound like in politics. But that's why I say communists are really good at propaganda. They're really good at messaging. You know, how can they always show them that they're for the people? Well, ask the same thing about previous communist regimes, right? Look at China. Chinese Communist Party act like they're for the people, but when you look more at it, they're very hierarchical. They very much so curry favor for party members and not for the person who has no connection, right? They're very much so people who have connections. People who do certain things will get certain things. It's not we lift up the weakest. Absolutely not.
So they get away with their propaganda because they control culture and media and the mainstream media. Now we do have the new media. We've got, but not all, like there's progressive new media, but we have a good on social media, on YouTube, on new media, but mainstream media, like if I pull up my phone right now and I go on Apple News, I'm not going to, it's going to lean progressive, and they are not going to be critical of AOC. You're not going to find that. Like that's not something you're going to easily find. The culture, the shows, the movies, the kids ingest, all still have they put the left in a favorable light and the right in a not favorable light. And so that subtle, the subtle messaging and the blatant messaging is the same. And then you've got a mainstream media that isn't telling the story and isn't telling the truth. They may not be lying, but they are not telling the full truth. They are not doing the in-depth investigation into everything that comes out of the mouth of these Democrat candidates. They're just not. There's too much alignment. So I think Breitbart, politics is downstream of culture, and as long as we don't have even an equal standing in culture, just equal, this is sort of what we have to deal with. And Trump has been a cultural phenomenon. And that's why I agree with what you said. Republicans are benefiting from Trump because he is a cultural phenomenon. He is unusual. He has captured the imagination of the culture. And that is when he is not in office, that's going to be something that Republicans are going to struggle to deal with, I think.
I think so. Anything can happen between now and when he leaves office. You're 100% correct with everything you said. Conservatives have to be involved in the culture, and they have to understand why people like certain things. So they can't complain about woke shows who are on the nose about feminist things and like on the nose about white male bad, right? You can't do the same thing in the inverse of being on the nose that the Christian is good or that the white man is actually good. Like, just come up with a good story. Show, don't tell. Like, don't preach to the audience. Don't do any of that stuff. And that's how you get involved in the culture. You need really good writing, really good involvement with what you're trying to show, and stop preaching to people. So that's my complaint. Whenever I see conservatives try to get into cultural things, it ends up being, this is a conservative movie written by conservatives for conservative. Like, it just becomes that. It's very obvious what is going on. Whereas good movies, not the woke ones are terrible, but the good movies are subtle.
Yes.
Right? The good movies have subtle messaging in it, and they normalize certain things,
Yes.
consciously and subconsciously. So that's how you slowly win people over. You change the image by giving them something that is real, because life is real and subtle. Right? If I meet you and I see how you, like, let's say if I wasn't a Christian, and I was around you and you're a Christian woman and you're living a very Christian life, and you look happy, and your husband looks happy, your kids look happy, like, that is a very, very subtle thing, and you haven't said a word about Jesus Christ to me. That is something that is attractive, and your lessons and things that I take from that is you living your life as a subtle message of something, even if you're not attempting to do that. We all take cues from people around us, and we take cues from the movies and TV shows that we watch too. So we have to show and not tell people what to do. And I think that is how we effectively be a part of the culture. It's when they try to preach stuff that it just becomes lame. It just doesn't work.
We have to be, and even though it may expose us, even though it may not always be comfortable, we have to surround ourselves with people that think differently than us and be open-minded, like when you are on Angela's show, to say, hey, we have some things that we can agree on. I'm going to come on your show. I'm not going to say, because last year you did this, I'm canceling you. I won't talk to you. I think that that's the wrong thing to do, especially when someone is actually showing interest in your ideas and kind of thinking like, maybe you're saying a few things right. Well, then if you act in such a way like this black and white and nothing else, and I can't be with you unless if you're not with me or against me, that kind of thing will repel. That repels. That's, and I don't want to use words inclusive, but there is, diversity isn't a bad thing when it's real, when it's authentic, when you're genuinely trying to create. I don't want to be around everyone. I don't want to be around clones of me. I want to be around people that are different, that bring something different. My spouse, I don't want a clone of myself. I want someone that complements me, and that like makes up for some of my shortcomings. So I think that we've got to, we do have to be available for conversations and talking, and try not to be, judgmental, but I think just by showing up and just, I'm here and I'm not what you think I am, and I'm just going to be here and have these conversations, and maybe at some point they come around. And I've seen that. I've seen people come around and they don't end up maybe voting the way I do, but they don't end up hating me anymore. And they realize that so much of what they thought about me was a caricature and it wasn't real, and they had to get to know the real person. And these are one conversation at a time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But the more of us that have them, the more we can start to expose the communist lies. Yeah. Because the communist is just, they thrive on chaos and sowing hate and othering. And I was talking to in a Ukrainian scholar from California who's Jewish, and she has a very in-depth understanding of communist propaganda, especially Russia, Putin. And I'm going to talk to her again because she was blowing my mind with things that she was saying, that the whole program, it's all manipulation. Lies are just weaved and embedded, and Americans are just, she's like, we are like lambs. We're little lambs because we just don't understand how manipulative the communists can be. We think that they're like us, and they're not.
Right. So two quick things. We have to give people grace when we're encountering people. Obviously, be selective, because not every person is approaching things in good faith.
Yeah.
I have a rule. I don't engage with people who are not in good faith. Just pull away from that. But if there is curiosity, then give them grace. Like, talk to them, because a lot of times you might have a misconception. They might have a misconception, whatever it might be. So I try to approach that, but try to win the person, not the argument. Lose your ego and just try to talk to people about stuff, and not get wrapped up in trying to win some argument. Because if you win the argument and lose the person, what was the point in the first place? You can say that I was smarter than them. Okay, then that's an ego boost. But if you're actually trying to win hearts and minds, then you have to lower your ego and give people grace and just actually listen to them and set up an environment where they'll listen to you, presuming it's all in good faith.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the same with friends and family and your spouse. Like, if your goal is to try and win arguments with people you care about, you may win the argument, but you could lose the relationship, or you can damage the relationship. So sometimes it's better to, like I said, show grace. And I realized when I was talking to you, it's sometimes that we want to be tolerant, but you're right. Because then I started to talk about the communists. There are people that are very manipulative, and they will expose your kindness and they'll weaponize it. So you've got to be as wise. You just be very wise about this. And I guess you have to go off your intuition sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you have to go off your intuition. I will say, and maybe some people don't agree with me, but you don't have to talk politics with every person that's in your life.
Amen.
My relationship with my family was never predicated on politics. And then I started doing this, and politics started coming up. And so recently I wrote something because I don't like feeling this way about a family member. And I said, moving forward, I'm not talking politics with anyone that's in my family. I'm not doing it. Because what ends up happening is you get someone who's like, hey, what do you think of this? Hey, did you see this? And then you become the caricature with your own family member. I can deal with being the caricature for some random person I don't care about. I can ignore that person. But when it's coming from your family, it's just like, I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather hang out with my family and talk about literally anything else, because our relationship was never predicated on politics. And often,
I love that you said that, because that's the rule that I have now. The more that I have gotten involved, I've realized I had family members constantly asking me, and I finally had to say, I do it all day. When I'm with my family, I don't want to talk about it. And I'll have to tell people, like, you know what, I really don't want to talk about this amongst the family, especially because the people that tend to well, did you hear about this? They don't agree with something, or they assign everything that Trump does or any Republican does. They think that I'm the spokesperson for that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not here to. At family functions, at family dinners, like, I don't want to talk politics. And more that's been a rule, because it hurts people, and also because I'm good at it and I could probably win the argument, but what would that do? Better to be by example, or ask them questions. It doesn't mean that you can't influence, especially if you hear some disinformation or misinformation. But sometimes the best thing to do is just say, like, let's talk about this later, and provide a little bit of facts or something. But really, if you love your family and relationships, sometimes you just have to not talk about politics.
Yeah. If you and everyone has to make a decision. If you have an uncle, if you have an aunt who's just like crazy, don't talk politics with them. But if your mom, your dad, if they're like curious, like I don't know anything about this. Can you explain this to me? Then go ahead and have that. My mom was never super political. So when I started doing this, she started asking me because she didn't know. But when I made that blanket rule, she told me, she's like, I kind of liked being able to ask you, but I respect what you're doing. So I'll respect your decision to not talk politics. So there's that. I granted, I've had these conversations with my mom where she reads my Substack. She's like, it's not nice that you said this. I'm like, just leave me alone. I'm going ask man.
My family is mostly very conservative, and so but even like maybe my brother's spouse, like they're conservative, but you know what? So me, my dad, my brothers, we could talk politics all night long. But then the spouses are kind of like, again, even if they agree with us, they're just like, I don't know, I'm just so wondering. And so that's where I'm kind of like, so I'll come around, and especially when I do cool things like, oh, you were at the White House for this, or, oh, that was cool that you did that. Yeah, I could talk about that. Isn't that great? But then I realized it's not being very nice to non-politicos, which most people are, and the kids that are rolling their eyes like, oh, I have to hear the story again. So it's not that we don't talk about it, or my dad and I especially, but I'll say, Dad, we'll go out to lunch, and me and you, we can talk for hours. We'll talk about this, but let's not, because not everyone wants to hear about this again. And there could be bad feelings. So my dad was a Marine, and what I told him, Dad, like, once you are a warrior, you've gone off to war, you become someone who hates war and conflict, and you always want to try and find another solution because you've lived to see what happens. War is always a last resort, and a surgeon doesn't want surgery to be a last resort because there's so many complications. So when you're in politics, it's kind of like, you know what, like, I want to not talk about this at sometimes, because sometimes it's just too contentious, and I see how it rips relationships apart. So let's just not always talk about it. Let's talk about some other things. There's got to be something else going on.
Yeah, and if I can say real quick, if you think about it, some people spend every day looking at something about politics, but at the end of the day, you just get one vote, right? So are we just entertaining ourselves in between the one vote that we get? And 99.9% of people know who they're going to vote for. Not too many people, I'm exaggerating 99%, but not too many people are unsure what they support and who they like and what they're voting for. Most people know, right? And so the rest of that time, they're just looking for stuff that validates their decision. But it's ultimately, in many cases, it's a waste of time. Like, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I wouldn't be nearly as active. Like, I wouldn't pay attention as close to politics, but I'm working it, so it's part of my job. Yeah. But I would be doing other things. I would be looking at, and I would occasionally pay attention, because 85% of the stuff that comes out is going to be forgotten in 2 to 3 days, definitely by the next week. So which means it's not that important in the first place. There's only a few things that are important, and those things that are important, they make it through. I have a scale where I say, if my mom knows about it, then it probably matters. Yeah. And that's so true. When it breaks through there, then that's when it matters. But when people on Twitter are like, Trump said this thing, oh, that's it. He's lost it. Everyone's gonna. I was like, no one's ever gonna know about that, and no one's going to care. That's a thing that politicos and DC bubble people care about. No one else cares about. Because no one else will even find out about it. So I think it's important for people to understand you get one vote, but you get 365 days a year. Use it wisely. If you know who you're voting for, you don't have to be glued to politics 24/7. Spend some of that time with your family, spouse. Do things with your friends. Leave that world because we only get one vote. We get one vote every so often for whoever we want to vote for, and we cast our vote, and we can move on with our lives. We did our part. Doing your part doesn't mean that you have to be glued to a TV network.
And you only get one life, and you only get a limited amount of time with your kids. So don't obsess about politics and social media. And I'm a social media director, but we had the Moms for Liberty Summit. That was amazing. I came home and I barely worked for a week because I had to get back on track. My daughter had a big party, and I had to focus. And so sometimes some weeks are like you're working, a lot, and then you have to recoup for another week. Take a break. And if you feel like you're under a lot of anxiety and stress, I know with these elections, you need to take a break for a while. After this election, if you've been working hard, no matter what the results are in New Jersey, New York, Virginia, Pennsylvania, the sun will rise, it will set, the world will move on. And I believe that at the end of the day, that I'm a Christian, and I believe that at the end of the day, good will out, good wins in the end. And if you, like I do, believe that we are fighting for reality and truth, then at the end of the day, truth will out. It will win. It's just, how many victims. I'm trying to prevent more victims from bad ideology, bad ideas, and lies. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. But in order to do that, you can't sacrifice all of your relationships, your health, your soul, and politics isn't a religion, and it should not be treated as such. And I see that a lot.
Yeah, same here. Use your time wisely in this life. But yeah, politics is not nearly as important as people make it seem. If it's your job, it's one thing, but if you're Joe Schmo, you don't need to be glued to it every single day. All you're doing is you're using politics as entertainment. It also becomes like the thing that raises your blood pressure. It's the thing that makes you feel nihilistic, like doom and gloom. It's all going to be over, and you lose the bigger picture at hand. So even when we talk about Mamdani may win. The New York City, under his control, is not going to be completely destroyed. Right? There are going to be problems for sure, but I don't believe that it'll be completely torn apart. But giving a socialist power is something that we should not do. So I think it's not a either or, it's both. We should care, but we should also not be nihilistic about if the person that we don't want to win wins, then everything is over. We didn't want Joe Biden to win, he won, but in some ways it might have been the best thing because it woke people up as to how bad immigration policies can get. Yeah. And so most people are fine with what Trump is doing because we saw what happened when you go the opposite direction. And he made the point, and we got to see how wild and crazy things are. That's why we were able to get Elon into the government to do Doge. Imagine if he tried to do that in his second term, the amount of pushback that would come from Republicans, nevertheless Democrats. It wouldn't have happened. He had the leverage because Joe Biden was that terrible.
Yeah.
So he had a mandate. He was able to campaign with Elon, saying, I'm going to bring Elon in and do this. and people still voted for him. He had a mandate from the people to do the things that he's doing, which is why there's no pushback from Republicans. There's no pushback from Americans, and all polling shows that majority of Americans agree with everything that he is trying to do. So even though he lost that election, I know some people will argue he didn't lose, but even though he was not in office, he didn't technically win that re-election. That might have been the best thing for the country. So sometimes through the ashes, good things will rise, right? The phoenix will rise from there. So, Mamdani may win, but who comes after Mamdani may be the best thing for New York City. So at the end, Jesus wins.
Yes, and Manami has brought together strange bedfellows, and I think when they understand who they're working with, when you've got Muslims that are in line with, the LGBTQIA plus like woke left. I'm going to be talking about this next week. So here's a tease. I just found curriculum written by Advocates for Youth under the banner of SIECUS, and this is curriculum that is the most widely used human growth and development, social emotional learning curriculum in the country. And they have just introduced this this whole lesson plan for Muslim kids, basically telling them that, it's okay to be trans. And so I think that there are probably a lot of devout Muslims who are unaware of the fact that there's already curriculum created, ready to be distributed to their children, where they are going to have meetings with them and talk to them about how it doesn't violate their religion to be transgender. When they discover what the left has cooking for them, I have a feeling that there's going to be these factions that have come together because they're being lied to. That's going to really fall apart fast. So at some point, all of these groups that what they have in common is hating Trump. At some point, they're going to look around and realize that there's a lot that they don't agree on. And so I think that this is a house built on a bad foundation.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens soon to find out. Thanks for coming on, having this long conversation, a lot of different topics covered, but I think good, because I think this is the kind of stuff that people talk about a lot or think about a lot.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's always good to talk New Jersey politics because usually no one cares.
Well, I've learned a lot. I didn't realize that you were in the highest property tax bracket and what had happened with energy. But I think, like, talking to my New Jersey friends, that it's not this far left area, that it's a lot of blue collar, the old blue dog Democrats. And I think one last question. Do you think that people who live in New Jersey are looking at New York and thinking, I better vote for a Republican because I'm seeing what's happening with the Democrat socialists and no bueno?
Well, a lot of people who live in New Jersey are from New York. They live in New Jersey for a reason. So there are a lot of people who maybe they're not necessarily making the connection to Democrats are an issue, but there are a lot of people who are more open than I think people realize. They left New York City for a reason. It's overtaxed. It is too expensive, whatever it might be. But if they're looking at a political angle, there's only one party in town, right? And it's the reason why that's the way that it is. New Jersey is a much more diverse state than people realize. It's it's a small state, but it's a very highly populated state. I think we have the second most people per square mile in the country. I think the first is California. We're either second or third. I can't remember. But we just have a lot of people in a very small area. And we have a very diverse ethnically and all that stuff. But we also have not just cities. Like it's not just Hoboken, right? You leave Hoboken, you drive out a little bit, you're in the woods. And that's what a lot of New Jersey is like. I would say half the state is rural. And a lot of people don't realize that. And they're relatively developed rural areas. A lot of suburbs. Our cities are very small. Newark is small. Trenton is small. Camden is small. Like these are very small cities. Most of New Jersey is either suburban or rural. The vast majority of New Jersey is suburban and rural. Not too many urban areas. So that dynamic, it's not some we got one major city and is millions upon millions of people that live there. And if that city goes Democrat and the state goes Democrat, that's not the case in New Jersey. Our cities are incredibly small. They don't have the pool population-wise to dictate our elections like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania. So it's much more spread out. And so because people live in various types of areas, their openness to different things is a lot different. The urban mentality that exists in Manhattan doesn't necessarily exist in the same way in New Jersey. So, even though Chitterelli lost last election, there were a lot of Republicans who were elected throughout the state assembly. And that's because people were rejecting the COVID measures by Phil Murphy. And that's why they were voting. There's a reason why Chitterelli almost won, despite not having nearly as much money, national support, or even national attention. So New Jersey's a lot more electorally diverse than people realize. It's just that the Republicans weren't nearly as organized and didn't have, early vote action from Scott Pressler, and having not just his, and there are other organizations actively campaigning within New Jersey, door knocking within New Jersey, trying to make New Jersey a swing state. And I'm starting to buy the hype. I think it is possible, even whether he wins or loses this election. I think it's possible for New Jersey to be the next battleground state, outside of like Virginia, for example, which can be contentious. I think it's very possible.
I think so. And I think with what could be happening in New York City, I think that makes it even more likely because you will have more refugees, people leaving New York City and going to New Jersey. And I don't think that they would be they might vote for something different. So it could become even more. And there are some Supreme Court decisions that are going to affect the way that districts are drawn, and Democrats have drawn a lot of districts from what I've read in New Jersey, Virginia. I know we've dealt with this in Wisconsin. They've drawn them in such a way that now, if the Supreme Court decides the way it looks like it's leaning towards, there could be some real changes in the makeup. If they just redraw some districts so that they aren't based on race or like trying to draw these like weird lines, there could be some changes that way. And, the way that they're counting with the census. So there's some things that could impact the states that are swing states that would move into the favor of Republicans. And that would be different. But we also have to have really good candidates, Republican candidates. We need really good candidates to run. And I think that you have a good one running for governor of New Jersey. He's very popular. I've listened to him talk. He's down to earth. He's plain spoken. And then I've seen, what's the name of the Democrat running against him? She's terrible.
Oh, Mickey Cheryl, yeah.
Yeah, she's terrible. I listened to a speech. It was hard to listen to, and I'm really trying to be fair because I will say Manami, he is a great speaker. What he says is not good, but he has rhetorical flourish. I mean, he can captivate an audience. So I have to acknowledge that. But she's not a good speaker. She doesn't answer questions. When she does, it doesn't make sense. It's shocking to me that this is someone who is even neck and neck. That's such a bad candidate. And that's what depresses me, to see really terrible candidates nearly win. If not, maybe she will win, but hopefully not. But the fact that she's this close and such a bad candidate it's scary that all you have to do is say I'm a Democrat, and I have I'm not a talented or gifted orator, or I don't have a great plan, but hey, I'm a Democrat and I'm not Trump. So vote for me.
That's essentially what she's running off of. Jack is just like Trump in New Jersey, and I'm not. Vote for me. And I think that is a bad move, because Trump is actually popular and the Democratic Party is at a 30-year low in approval rating. So Trump is winning in all measures, and Jack is right to take the Trump endorsement and to not shy away from Donald Trump, because he is very popular. And no matter what they try to say, that they don't like that ICE is doing. No, people voted for him to do. Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. And no one is upset that ICE is taking away people who should not be in this country. And that all these different measures that are happening, trying to shrink the federal government, he said he was going to do all those things. Nothing is a surprise. Everything that he said he's going to do, or everything that he is currently doing, he said he was going to do. So,
Do you think Trump will show up in New Jersey at the last minute?
That would be interesting. Here's the interesting thing. I don't know if he should or if he should not. I don't know how much that will help him or not help him.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Would it help? Would it not help? But I would think it would help. It's come in at the end and do a rally.
Yeah,
it could be. He'll be back. I think he was flying in. He's stateside now.
Okay, he's back. Yeah,
he
went to Japan. If I remember.
South Korea, Malaysia, a whole
he's back. I think he went to China too. Like that.
There's a Halloween party at the White House tomorrow on the lawn with him and Melania. They'll have the kids and all decorated and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if you will. We'll see. I guess we'll see. But all right. Well, good luck. If you're in New Jersey, go vote early, vote for Jack. And vote down ballot, because at Moms for Liberty, we support our school board candidates. So go to momsforliberty.org and, click on New Jersey, check out some of the chapters there and contact them and see who you should vote for school board. If not, maybe your county GOP will have recommendations, but try to find out who is on Team Sanity and vote for them on school board. And vote for your and I am a conservative, I am Republican, so I'm going to say this, contact your local GOP, find out who to vote for down ballot if you don't know, because sometimes you'll only vote for that top race and leave the rest blank. Don't do that. Keep voting, find out who the good candidates are and who the better candidates are. And keep voting down ballot. Those races all matter. So find out who to vote for and do it. Or if you see somebody with Jack's sign on their lawn, take note of who are all the other people on the lawn. They'll have, sometimes that's a strategy that people use. I'll put all the signs out on the lawn and people will drive by and take a picture and say, I just need to know who to vote for because I agree with you. So maybe that works. But all right, well, have a good night. I'm going to go eat dinner late.
All right,
And
you have a good night too.
make sure my kids like haven't destroyed the house. So, all right, have a good night, Adam. Bye.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Bye. So that was a great conversation with Adam Coleman and previously with Alex, both from New Jersey. So I've learned a lot about New Jersey politics that I didn't know before. And so I recorded these interviews separately. I'm going to post them separately, but you're watching a full live stream on Thursday. And as a special treat, I am now going to run the fatherhood panel that Adam Coleman was on at the Moms for Liberty Summit in Orlando, Florida, just a short time ago. He is with Benny Johnson and Terry Schilling, and Pastor John, we call him because I can't quite say his last name, but I love him. He's amazing. This was one of our most popular panels, very thoughtful discussion about fatherhood and the role of men. And, you know, we're Moms for Liberty, but we celebrate our dads. We love our dads. I know I couldn't do what I do without my husband, who's an amazing dad. And I am the daughter to also an amazing father and an amazing mother who raised me right, literally right. And I am so grateful for them. So I'm going to proceed to the fatherhood panel. Oh, before I do that, I didn't do this earlier and that would be follow Adam Coleman right here at Wrong Speak. Okay. Isn't he thoughtful? He's amazing. I want to talk to him about a lot of different things. He's got a very interesting life story. He's written 2 books, Black Victim to Black Victor, and The Children We Leave Behind. I hope I got that right. But go to at Wrong Speak right here. See that? Screenshot that, and I'll put that under the links. Also, don't forget Alexandra Boyer. This is her X handle. Both were amazing guests, and I hope you are inspired to vote and save your state, New Jersey. I tried to get my friend Natalia on, but she is in Connecticut promoting her documentary 15 Days, which I have played on my show before. It's amazing. And so go ahead and check that out. And she is desperately trying to save New York City. I am going to, on Friday, talk with Lydia Schaefer, who is in Virginia. And I'm going to air that right away. We're going to talk on Friday. I'm going to put that out right away because Virginia is another key pivotal state that Team Sanity must win. So that's my contribution to what's going on in the political world, what everyone's talking about. And so now we're going to watch the fatherhood panel. Remember this as well. Moms for Liberty YouTube channel, you can watch this whole thing. I'm also going to put it up in segments, so you could just watch a segment. If you are interested in starting a chapter or joining Moms for Liberty, go to momsforliberty.org and follow Moms for Liberty on X right there. That's the handle. So have a wonderful night. Thank you for tuning in to Moms for Liberty Unleashed. I'm Scarlett Johnson, and have a wonderful, blessed weekend. If you live in a state that has some big elections and even small elections, get out and vote. Vote early, bring people with you. And because you voted early, you may think, oh, election day, I can just relax. Nope. Get more people to the polls. Make sure that you are door knocking, helping to secure even more voters. I'm sure the polls are open
And now we have a fatherhood panel. Yes. Let's go. I think we're going to sit now. And we're going to do our own based version of The View. Who's ready for that? All right. Oh, you like this better? Yeah? All right. No Joy Behar in blackface on this panel. You know, she did that right. I'm not trying to be mean. She wore blackface. She got away with it. Strange, that.
I'm definitely not Whoopi. Just so you know.
And he's not Whoopi. That's what he says. Terry Schilling, I don't know what you would be there. You're Kathy Griffin for sure.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, yeah. We got some alpha dads in the house. Why don't we go down the line and introduce ourselves? Let's start.
My name is John Amanchukwu. Known by the liberal media as the book banning pastor. And so, that's an honor.
I'm Terry Schilling. I am the president of American Principles Project, but most importantly, I am father to 7 children. And my wife's gonna kill me for making this announcement, with our 8th on the way.
I'm Adam Coleman.
Not Whoopi Goldberg.
Not Whoopi Goldberg. I'm an official Monster Liberty fanboy. I've been to every conference. I'm the author of a book called Black Victim, Black Victor, and The Children We Left Behind. Write for the New York Post, so on and so forth. But the most important thing, I'm a husband. Just celebrated our 4th year, and I have an adult son, 20 years old, just turned 20.
Yo.
Let me throw this in there, Benny. I've been married to for 17 years, and I have 3 children, John Patrick, Pamela, and John Jr.
There you go.
Nice. Yeah.
Can we normalize that? Can we normalize, like, if you're gonna be a man and you're gonna sit on a panel, you better be bringing children, right? You better say, yeah, okay, I manned up, all right? And I'm raising babies.
Yes.
That's my first question. Boys, I got good data right here. I know it's not up on the screens, but I can show everyone. Check out this data. Amongst American voters age 30 and under, the #1 priority for Trump male voters is having children, starting a family. For female Trump voters under the age of 30, it's #6. We got to work on that, ladies. Okay, all right. And then for male Kamala voters, which are practically women, it's #10, having kids. And for female Kamala voters, it's #12 out of 12. It is the literal last priority for female Kamala voters. So boys, well done. This is the fatherhood panel. We've been winning this culture war as Trump voters. But there's no such thing as a battle in the culture war that's forever won. And a lot of you men have been fighting an uphill battle, obviously, for years and decades. So how do we keep winning with our young men and proving out that fatherhood should be what you want, what you aspire to as a man?
I'll go first. I think we have to show men as being more than income earners. I think the biggest issue that we face is men and women, unfortunately, believe that the father is just the guy who goes to work, brings home the bread, and gets to knock out and go to sleep. And I grew up without my father. I know what it's like to not have a present father. But I've also talked to many men and women who grew up with a father who technically lived in the home but was just as absent as my father. and they're just as damaged as I was. So I think it's very important, if we're going to show that there's an importance in fathers, we have to show what a proper father looks like. And a proper father looks like a man who does more than earn an income, who spends the most valuable thing that he offers and that anyone offers. And it's something that even Elon Musk can't buy, and that's time. It's a sacrifice for his children. You sacrifice your time for someone that you care about. Any person that you love, you sacrifice your time for them. That's how you know they love you. And in that sacrificial love is something that is incredibly important, and that's what kids take away. Is it nice to take them to Disney? Sure. But they remember how much time you spent with them, those inside jokes. When they needed something, when they wanted to ask advice, being available for them, that is what is the key. So we have to show that there's a deeper meaning to being a father than just the guy who procreates and goes to work.
Word.
I think we've got a crisis with, obviously adults. 40% of Gen Zers say they don't ever want to get married. 43% say they don't want to have children, which, by the way, I get the 43% that say they don't want to have children. I could come up with a million reasons not to have children after having 7 of them. But they're all worth it, trust me. But one thing I don't understand is the 40% who say they don't ever want to get married. I think that's a very sad statistic. It's a lonely statistic. When you think about marriage, you're finding that partner to spend the rest of your life with that's going to have your back through thick and thin, that you're going to have their back. So I think that ultimately we've allowed the radical left to create an artificial divide between men and women. Men love women, believe it or not, and women, normal women, love men. But there's been this artificial divide that's come from the left, and it's been operationalized through the Democratic Party, and they've changed our laws. And I think that we need to start going to our children, our young boys. There's gotta be a ton of boy moms in here, right? Boy moms? So, look, boy moms, you have a very important job, because especially if you're on the right, because boy moms on the right, they don't coddle their kids. Right? We let them get scraped knees. We let them get into trouble. We want them out of the house. But, that's right. But you've got to encourage that, right? And you've got to encourage your young boys to be wild and free. Get out of the house. Get off of the video games. Don't get distracted with weed and hookup culture and social media and video games. Get out of the house, find a girl, get in your car, take her on a date. You know what I mean? That's what we got to get back to. So we need the boy moms teaching their boys how to be men, and we need the girl dads teaching their girls how to be respected and how to be treated by young men. That's what I think we start with.
I would say that we have to point out and topple organizations and institutions that seek to destroy the nuclear family.
Yes.
The concept and the idea of the nuclear family does not originally come from the Democrat Party or even from the Republican Party. It comes from God. God's desire is that we would be fruitful, that we would multiply, and that we would replenish the earth. And any institution or organization that seeks to destroy that, we shouldn't support those institutions. And this is why during the summer of 2020 and 2021, I attacked from the infancy what BLM stood for, because on their website, they wanted to destroy the nuclear family. And if you know anything about the fatherlessness rate in the black community, you know that 70% of black homes are led by a single parent. And so why would an institution want to destroy the nuclear family knowing those dire statistics? Consider this, from the 1890s all the way up to the 1950s, the black marriage rate rivaled that of whites. But when welfare states were made and Lyndon B. Johnson came along with this Great Society plan, he destroyed that. And so I think now more than ever, we need men and fathers to speak out against institutions that are intentionally trying to sabotage the nuclear family. We can't allow these things to exist. We have to fight back. We have to push back. And listen, I can recall having my first car seat in the back seat. Man, I was the man. I was the coolest. I was the coolest dude on the block.
Once you could finally get it in.
I'm telling
like, how do you do this?
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But listen, I figured it out. It was easy, you know. And it's an honor to be a father. It's an honor to be a patriarch. It's an honor to lead a family. It's an honor to be a provider and a protector and a priest of home. And we need to normalize that and make that popular in today's culture.
The natural follow-up that I'd love to hear everyone answer, but that you mentioned, is that the government, you're saying, destroy institutions that attack the nuclear family, that create fatherlessness.
Right.
Well, what attacks the nuclear family more than the incentivization structure of our own federal government to pay single moms more to not have a dad in the household?
Correct.
They used to have government minders go house to house to ensure the father wasn't there.
That's right.
So the lady could get a welfare check. I mean, that's sick, man.
Yeah.
That is a sunken society. So are you saying let's get rid of those programs entirely?
Yes. What I am saying is that welfare is there for people who are going through a short-term lack and they have a need. But it should be a safety net and not a hammock. You shouldn't spend 10 decades on welfare. And we need to monitor how we dole out these funds and support people who are in those positions. My mother was on welfare for about 6 to 7 months. But she didn't like the fact that all 4 of her children were going to school and having to eat from the free and reduced lunch line. So my mom went and took on another job to make sure that all of her children were not in the free or reduced lunch line. What am I saying? I'm saying that you can obtain and reach any pinnacle in society regardless of your pigmentation and of your skin tone and your color. We should not allow the Democrat Party to think that they have a corner on the market for making successful people in America, which they don't. It's the anti-God family. It's the anti-family party. And so we have to point what's going out and make it clear. The Democrat Party wants to destroy the notion of family in America. And I don't believe that Christians should support a political party that seeks to do that. I don't know how you can call yourself a Christian and support the Democrat Party in the first place. And what I'm saying right now is not popular. It's not popular to say, but it needs to be said. It's necessary because we have the Democrat Party position as an entity that seeks to destroy God. They are haters of God, and they are inventors of evil things, and we need to point that out.
I'm personally really happy right now that Kamala Harris is unemployed. I don't know if she's on welfare or not, but I hope she gets the help that she needs. You know what I mean? Okay, so maybe can we broaden this out to the rest of the panel? What should the government be doing to incentivize family creation? How about that?
Well, one, I think we need to stop lying to the people about the priorities that are good or better in our society. We spend billions and millions of dollars in our society telling young girls that their career, that their educational attainment is more valuable than being a mother. Is that accurate? Is being a press associate for Google more valuable than having a baby? I don't think it is, and I think we all know that that's true. But that doesn't stop the federal government, our state governments, our local governments from pushing these ideologies on our young girls at the youngest levels. Right? I'm the eldest of 10, full disclosure, but I was talking to, my sister was 12 at the time, but she was number 9. And I asked her, I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Thinking she would say, a doctor or a lawyer. She said, I want to be a mom. I was blown away. That is what we want our young women to say. And here's the other thing, Benny, that I'll tell you is that I had this conversation with my mom. She was going through that time where she realized she couldn't have any more kids, and she was lamenting it. And she said, I'm just kind of mad at God because he's taking this ability to have children away from me, and I really like having babies. I like having a family. And I said, Mom, you maxed it out. You had 10 kids. Yeah. But she had this revelation, and it was obviously the Holy Spirit. She said, but then I had this sense of peace. Your youngest brother, Tony's 10 years old now, he's going to be graduating high school in a very short time. I'll be able to go get that college degree or start the coffee shop I wanted to do. And guess what my mom's doing right now? She is the executive director of our local crisis pregnancy center. She's tripled the revenue for that crisis pregnancy center so that she's helping young women have more babies and afford them. That is so beautiful. And by the way, I would hire a mom of 10 kids, 5 kids, 4 kids, 3 kids, over anyone with a college degree and no children.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, you've run a household of 10 kids, 5 kids, whatever it is, 2 kids even. You have management experience. You have life skills. You have seen human beings at their best and at their absolute worst. You know more about humanity than anyone with a doctorate even. So, I don't know, I just think we need to stop lying. We need to stop these government programs that inculcate and indoctrinate our daughters into these lies that careers and education are better than, or I'm sorry, education's important. College degrees are garbage. College degrees are trash. They're not better than being a mother, and we need to stop lying.
What should the government be doing to incentivize fatherhood and parent and family creation?
I might be the outlier, but nothing.
Please, preach.
I think part of the problem is that the government feels that it needs to entrench on everything that we do and incentivize everything. And some of it is our fault. Some of it is us saying, hey, government, you have a bunch of money. Why don't you support this? Why don't you support that? I think the government has its place, but I think most people make decisions based off of their cultural understanding. So while it's true, you know, we have welfare programs and things like that, that's one aspect. But I use my wife as an example. She grew up in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, and there was only one family in her neighborhood that had intact family, and they were from the Caribbean. So these weren't people who were all on welfare. This was a cultural understanding. Now, this issue is beyond race. This issue is facing all Americans. It's actually going beyond America and throughout the Western world. You know, when I talk about being without my father, the people who approach me don't look like me. But yeah, we talk about people who look like me all the time, and they get ignored. So there are children who are, use my book title, there were children who were left behind. And even socially, we don't discuss them. We don't discuss what they're going through. And maybe in some aspects, we talk about single parenthood, but what about the children of divorce? Because they're equally troubled, and no one seems to be advocating for them. Their entire world splits apart because 2 people can't agree anymore, who made promises to each other that they were going to stay together forever, and 5, 10, 15 years later, they renege on that to the detriment of their children. So while I'm not someone who says divorce shouldn't happen 100% of the time, it has its place just like anything, but I do think that we've become a very individualistic society where we excuse adult behaviors. The adults get to act like children. The children are expected to respond like adults. The children are supposed to be fine and understand that mommy and daddy don't love each other anymore. And I'll just throw you into therapy and you'll be fine. Meanwhile, mom and dad get to go out and date and act like whimsical kids, go into movie theaters. Meanwhile, the kids are wondering when's the next time they're going to see their father. So these are real situations, and I think that culturally we have to make a change. And it's beyond, maybe you're doing everything that's right, but what about your sister and your brother? You know that they're abandoning their kids, and you say nothing. Who's advocating for the kids? You hear how they talk about their children and talk to their children. You say nothing. So I do think that it goes beyond the government. It's a cultural shift that we need to have. If you see children being mistreated, and it's easy to say, oh, you know, if they're being physically abused or something like that. Not everything is reportable, but they can't come to the cookout. They can't hang out with us. I'm sorry, if you're a deadbeat, you can't be my friend.
For fear of this being taken out of context, because this is not obviously the audience nor the movement to beg for government solutions for everything, I'm not trying to do that exactly, but what I am doing is looking around the world at countries that are seeing collapsing birth rates.
Yeah.
And a lot of governments, whether it's Japan or Hungary, are saying, we're going to do something about it to make sure that we actually put on a pedestal the mother, that we put on a pedestal the father, and that we incentivize this. I mean, I'm no policy guy, right? I'm no Stephen Miller. I have way too much hair for that. But you know, who would be in favor of, if you have 3 kids as a woman, you pay no more taxes, right? Like this is like you've done kids are expensive. You've done a service to society. You've carried forward our people. And so like you pay no taxes for the rest of your life, right? Like you're good, thank you. Okay, and I don't know if, well, you have 6 kids, you get a check. I don't know. I'm not. You get a Bitcoin, right?
I'm a big
if you have
fan
6
of
kids,
getting
you get 1
checks to
Bitcoin.
families.
I don't know. I'm not the policy guy. But there are countries that are right now doing programs like that to say, no, we're going to incentivize, we're going to do the opposite of what we've been doing. We're going to incentivize family creation. We're going to say kids are expensive, they're a lot of work, and you're going to get rewarded for carrying forward our people and our culture. What do you think of that?
Well, I agree with it. You know, if we can fund death to the tune of $700 million going to Planned Parenthood every year, then we can fund life. I believe that. If we can do that, I believe that.
Benny, I'll just say, you know, the federal government, the state government, they do social engineering through the tax code, right? If you're a corporation, you start a business, and you buy a company car, you get to deduct that off of your taxes at the end of the year. Corporations pay taxes on their net income. Families pay taxes on their gross income. Why shouldn't we allow families to deduct the cost of having to educate our children? I have to send my kids to a private school because the schools in Fairfax County, Virginia will tell them that men can have babies, and they don't teach them math, right? Why don't I get to write that off at the end of the year in my taxes? That's crazy. But the government does all these things to incentivize capital formation, and they do almost nothing to incentivize family. In fact, they punish family formation. There's a marriage penalty. We got to get rid of the marriage penalty. We got to get rid of every incentive that keeps parents from staying married and children from having parents.
Wow.
Well, the only thing is, when we talk about tax credits, we're talking about people who are already in it. What we want to is incentivize people becoming married and having children. And so what we have to do is hit them, in my opinion, with a private solution. We need to have more movies and TV shows that show families as actually something that's beneficial.
Yeah.
I think the conservatives have not done a good job when it comes to being involved in the culture. We fought against it, but we need to actually be part of it. We need to show, not tell, that being a happy, healthy Christian member of society who has children is something that is ultimately beneficial and rewarding. I wouldn't take anything back about my life, especially when it comes to having my son. My son is part of the reason why I'm here, because I've grown as a man. Becoming married, I wouldn't be doing any of this without the support of my wife. Where every turn, thank you, you can give her a round of applause. My background's in IT. Every term where I was like, should I do this? I don't know. She said, go ahead and do it, right? Sometimes, even as men, we need that extra push, and then we're off to the races. So I do think that we need to affect the culture. The government has its place, but I do think we need to get involved way more into the culture.
Beautiful. We were talking a little bit about Snoop Dogg backstage. Don't ask why, but feel free to tell the story, actually. But you bring up such a great point, that culture is so, we live in a center-right country, but Hollywood, media, and entertainment do not reflect that at all.
Right.
They are straight-up communists, these people, and Antifa members, and they're degenerates, and it's sick, and it's demonic. I think a lot of it is truly spiritual, and it's sunken. And every single father figure that I see projected into society, whether it's Homer Simpson or Peter Griffin or Stan Marsh, everything this side of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I think, which was a great show, actually.
Yeah.
Great show. Are we Fresh Prince fans? I don't know.
Yes.
I think it's a great, that was actually pretty good. I would love to have Uncle Phil as my dad. It's like, smack him around. But everything seems to be denigrating of the father. What was the last really great father figure that was projected, right, by our massive entertainment system?
Yeah.
Did somebody yell one? Give me an example. Who? Oh, Cleaver? Like Beaver Cleaver? Like you leave it to Beaver? That's like the 50s. anything recent?
Well, Benny, I will
I don't
say,
know.
you had A Quiet Place.
I mean, so yeah, please, this
Right?
is for the panel. I don't mean to but please, how that would be so great for our young men to look up and see something that projects the father as this honorable figure who's respected in his household, loved by his wife, beloved by his children, who's the man. We don't get a lot of that.
Right. Well, I'll just say there are recent examples, or at least one that comes to mind, which is A Quiet Place. John Krasinski from The Office created this movie, and if you've seen it, I don't want to ruin the ending, but the father dies for his family, dies to save his children, and he's a very strong father. He's smart, stoic, and the movie was one of the top grossing movies of all time at the box office. It's been one of the most successful franchises. What I'm saying is, there's an opportunity for what Adam's talking about. Yeah. But who in this room is going to take advantage of that opportunity? You can make a ton of money. Hollywood's not interested in making money anymore. They're interested in political power now, right? If they were interested in making money, there'd be 100, The Passion of the Christ, right? That was one of the highest grossing films of all time globally. Yep. They aren't interested in that because they have a political agenda. Who in this room can make movies? Who in this room wants to make money? We need it. So step into the breach, because there is an opening, there's an audience, there is a market for selling strong fathers and strong mothers to the American people.
That's good.
Do you see the market for selling strong fathers?
I do. There is a market for clean and wholesome television, documentaries, sitcoms, and shows. But the greatest sitcom, show, TV, commercial, whatever it is how we live our lives with our families. It's what we do daily. Yeah. It's the father that I am to John Patrick, to John Jr., and to Pamela. And it's the husband that I am to Crystal. Yeah. The Bible says that we are living epistles read amongst men. People read your life and what you do. The determination that I've had over these past 3.5 years to at times leave my own family and travel to 22 states, fighting against Marxist, atheists, punks, and perverts who are trying to mentally rape and sodomize our children. That is the greatest sitcom and show that we can produce of what it looks like to be a man and to defend and protect the family. It's what we do daily in our lives.
I mean, I've seen Antifa up close. Man, you'd kick their ass. You know what I mean? These guys, I love you going state to state fighting them. I'd watch that. Can we make that a show? Can we make that a show?
New cops.
Woo!
Yeah.
Pay-per-view. I would do it. You'd beat UFC, man.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely right. I remember when my son was younger, we watched Disney and these Disney Channel shows, and the fathers are always buffoons and the children are smarter than the adults. Yep. And that always discouraged me, and I never really liked it when he watched it. So I would turn it off and have him watch something else. Yeah. But as a shameless plug, I am working with a startup streaming and production company that focuses on family-friendly, healthy content because there is a market for it. You're absolutely right. There is a market for real people who want to see something positive and not degenerate. And so, it's called Thirst Entertainment. Will be coming soon. And you guys can subscribe and watch all of that.
I know that we're almost out of time here, so I just want to go through. There's so much wisdom on this stage. I feel like we could have this conversation for the next couple hours. But could you impart your wisdom to the young people out there who have, again, promising trends? We talked about big issues here, but give some advice. I know that you probably get asked this all the time by young people. Man, how do I get started? How do I make a family? How do I cut it in life? Can we just give them the best distilled wisdom that you have as fathers and strong men?
You want to go first, John?
Yeah, you go, Adam.
I'll go? Okay. I will say that I learned how to be a good father by not being my father. And so you may not come from the best of beginnings, but where you end up is up to you. And you can learn from other people's mistakes. And becoming a strong man is a choice. So you can become a victim and say, look where I came from, look how I was treated, how are things gonna get better? Or you can take the road that I did. It took me a long time to get to where I am today, but my son changed my life. And so I hope and pray that other young men will see some hope in my story as well.
Beautiful. Live by example. Please, Terry.
It's just common sense. I think we just need to talk to our young people and say, I mean, we all talk to them about America and how great our country is. We inculcate them into that. Talk to our kids about the beauty of family, the beauty of becoming a father, the beauty of becoming a mother, how important that is, and how much longer lasting of a legacy that is for the entire world than a college degree or even the best career. Some of the happiest people ever die very poor, but they die surrounded by their 10 children. Right? Think about that. That happiness lies in your family. It lies in the intangible, the things that come to us from God, like our children, which, by the way, children are a blessing from the Lord. They don't come from anywhere else, right? College degrees come from woke morons who want to destroy our country. Reject the woke morons and their gifts and accept the gifts from God. That's it.
Boom.
I think now more than ever, we have to talk about the sacred covenant of marriage.
Yes, yes.
Before the children come, there's a marriage there. There's a covenant there. You're not in covenant with your children. There's a relationship with your children, but you're in covenant with your spouse. And it's imperative that children see the magnitude, the greatness, and the blessedness of this divine covenant. And when we normalize the covenant, we make it easy for children to conform to the covenant and desire the covenant for themselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a good shape, okay? If this is the model that young men have going forward as fathers, can I get a round of applause for our fatherhood panel? Yeah. All right, boys.
God bless you. Of course.
We go.